Hi! I'm a dude who knows Pokemon inside and out. I'm the guy who made a 4-hour review on Sword and Shield and a 9-hour review on Scarlet and Violet. Oh, sorry. I just realized I don't want to do this anymore. 28th of January 2022, Pokemon Legends Arceus releases two pretty dang positive press if my memory serves, and critics and players alike, even those usually more critical towards the series, were, for the most part, pretty dang happy, touting the advancements the series was making, like throwing Pokeballs in real time rather than in a turn-based menu. Took them that long. An 8 out of 10 on Metacritic. That's really very good. And most people that I've talked to about Legends Arceus do agree with each other for the most part that the game is good. Or at least decent. A step in the right direction. A basis on which to improve on. Of course, I'm a contrarian douchebag, so I think the game's a bunch of bunk. Buggy, ugly as sin, runs poorly, controls a sloppy, battle system's confusing, story's bland, but worst of all, I find it boring. And that's the biggest nitpick of all. So as you can imagine, I didn't exactly have the highest hopes for a Pokemon game set entirely in Lumio City. I wonder what could have possibly shaken my faith. So color me surprised to find myself actually enjoying Legends ZA. I'm sure it felt very low in scope compared to even Scarlet and Violet, but I was having fun, and if I was enjoying myself, surely everybody else. It was the Scorts, wasn't it? I don't know if Pokemon drastically changed audience between Legends Arceus and Scarlet and Violet, or if that game was a huge wake-up call, or maybe Sword and Shield was so bad Legends Arceus looked like a masterpiece in comparison, but I feel that if ZA had come out in the place of Arceus, people would be singing a different tune. Like, don't get me wrong, I am super glad that the Pokemon Company is finally feeling even like a slight semblance of pressure from its fans to actually do better. I just think ZA is better than Arceus by at least a small margin. By 2 points even. Heck, maybe 3. I'm feeling generous. Maybe I've just lost my edge after the 9-hour blowout on Scarlet and Violet, but I mean, the game functions, it works, most of the time. Throughout my experience with ZA, aside from occasional pathing issues, I didn't really run into all too many bugs or glitches, which is crazy coming off of Scarlet and Violet. Of course, I'd be remiss to say the game's not worth the price. If it had been priced correctly instead of greedily, as is the Nintendo way, richest multimedia franchise in the world, stupidly using game key cards, I feel like the experience here would have been just fine. Nothing spectacular, but enjoyable enough for the casual player. But see, I played the Switch 2 version, which was 20 New Zealand bucks more expensive than the Switch 1 version, I guess because it includes the upgrade pack. I don't know why they have to deface the box art to let us know that, oh my gosh, the Switch 2 version of the game includes the Switch 2 version of the game? This upgrade pack, which is actually built in, so again, why? Allows you to play the game at the resolution and frame rate the console is built for. Okay. I can understand coughing up an extra $20 for Breath of the Wild's or Tears of the Kingdom's upgrade pack, as for those games Nintendo had to go back and touch them up. But coughing up extra for a game that was intended in the first place to be on the Switch 2 on release, just because it's on the Switch 2, and that leaves a kind of sour taste in my mouth. And then you gotta remember that on top of that, they announced a $50 New Zealand DLC and allowed you to pre-order that DLC before the game was even out. No gameplay or anything, just give us your money now. And then after that, actually showed off gameplay of that DLC not too long after the game released, meaning they absolutely were working on this before the game was anywhere near completion. I'm not sucking on lemons here, guys. The sour taste is coming from inside the house. I don't even know if that makes sense. Originally, I was going to go through everything play by play like I did in the Scarlet and Violet video, but that was going to end up as like a 4-hour video, and I don't want to do that anymore. So let's begin with the story. If you can call it a story. I'll be honest, as I always am with Pokemon, this one's not winning any awards, even in the Pokemon-only category. There's one big overarching story about AZ and Quasartico Incorporated needing to find the strongest Mega Evolution trainer to help deal with the problem going on in Lumio's Tower, as shown here in what's probably the highest quality cutscene in all of Pokemon game history, mostly because there isn't a computer mouse anywhere on the screen. And they still aren't hiring voice actors. Don't get me wrong, I don't give a rootin' tootin' shibooty about including voice acting in a small indie RPG, or I wouldn't if they didn't keep making cutscenes that need voice acting in the first place. I can hear the clothes rustling here. I was gonna say I was curious as to just how far they could push the no voice actors thing in future titles, but honestly, I think they've hit the ceiling here in ZA and broken through. Honestly, they hit the ceiling back in Sword and Shield. Here, there are several cutscenes in the first half hour that feel like they're totally missing voices. It's like they're lip sync to some guy's voice clip they just forgot to add in when they shipped the game. Anyway, you're a tourist traveling to Lumio City. Whoa, Game Freak, watch out. Don't want to put too many trees in one spot there, lest we forget the tag tree forest incident of 22. You get wrapped up in a fiasco that has you meeting Urbane and settling into Hotel Z, run by AZ from X and Y. That's a lot of letters. No problem if you don't remember AZ. All he does in this game is stand behind a desk and then die. Urbane's helping AZ with the whole find the strongest Mega Evolution trainer thing by working with his friends and MZ club members, Naveen and some girl I always forget the name of, by battling in a competition called the Z2A Royale. You're noticing a theme with the names yet? This competition is designed essentially to find the strongest trainer. As I said, the more battles you win, the higher you climb up the ranks, and even though they're keeping the true nature of the competition a secret, the prize for reaching rank A is a single wish granted to you by Quasartico, if it is within their power. Now, that essentially is the first hour of the game compressed down into a couple of paragraphs, but it is pretty slow. This competition and the threat behind the gender reveal party going on at Lumiose Tower takes a back seat from here on until pretty much the last 5 minutes of the game, and instead we're introduced to a sort of revolving door of kooky characters and small stories revolving around them, usually because your next promotion match is against them. Unfortunately, none of it is really all that good. Most characters, despite having interesting and or appealing designs, are really very bland. Urbane is the very worst example of this. His character personality is that he wants to help AZ, and also help the people in Pokémon of Lumio City. And he likes battling. And that's kinda it. He can cook. One thing, the way they were talking about Urbane's cooking, it seemed like they were going to do something crazy and new with every dinner cutscene, but they just kept reusing the same dish over and over, the croissant curry, which is just regular curry with some croissants around it. Naveen is the only one with a semblance of a personality out of the main trio. He's sort of a crotchety, gloomy sort of guy with a passion for fashion. Oh, please, not the fedora from the trailers. Get this thing off of me! He's also the biggest fan of the second electric-themed streamer we've had in a Pokemon game so far. Cue the meme, there it goes. Lita, on the other hand, doesn't really have anything interesting to say or do throughout the story. She just likes dancing. Oh god, he's back! It's heavily implied, might as well be outright stated, really, that Lita is X and Y's Tierno's little sister. This was written before the DLC, don't get your knickers in a twist, I'll get to that eventually. Anyway, boy, I sure can't wait for him to visit Hotel Z alongside other such characters from X and Y to see how they're doing 5 years down the track. Isn't that gonna be interesting? I am looking forward to that. As I mentioned, AZ and his special Floetta surprisingly absent from the story for the most part. Yeah, he sometimes talks to you in a cutscene and whatnot about what's going on, but he doesn't even take part in the MZ meetings, which I feel like could have helped us know the guy a little bit better before he... Essentially, from the start and right until the end of the story, it feels like what would have been a bunch of side quests in any other game, really kind of mangled into a numbered list of events that happen one after another with almost no cohesion or relevance to the others. I mean, right at the start of the game, you meet Emma, a detective who's taken over the Looker detective agency, I guess because Looker got the Luigi's Mansion treatment, and despite being on the fucking box, she turns up 3 times during the main story and doesn't even do the one thing they queued her up for during it, which was finding the person Urbane's looking for in Lumiose, the whole point of him even being in this city in the first place! Naruto! And despite Emma's character model having more cake than a Gigantamax Alchemy, she's got no character personality whatsoever. She's just nice. She's just a nice person, and that's kind of it. I like Emma, but is that because of the writing, or is it because of the design? Most of the other characters, unfortunately, aren't much better, ranging from bland and boring to tropey and overdone. Muscle Guy, whom I also forget the name of, is an upbeat but kind of dense sort of dude that uses fighting types, which you've seen before in many different medias. His sister, a gloomy recluse who uses ghost-type Pokemon. Again, seen it before. There's Vinny and Set, secretary and CEO of Quasartico, respectively, who are both extremely forgettable because they don't have any interesting moments or character traits. The construction guy, what's his name, I thought was going to turn out to be a catfishing live streamer with a voice changer and VTuber model, but that's thrown out the window just as the twist was starting to take hold, which really sucked, leaving him as just another cheerful guy with basically nothing to say. Well, I mean, his whole construction company is based around the branding of his granddaughter, Kanari, with their anime girl shirts, just like the shirts, cups, and drinks you can get from Gamersubs.gg with code code RADICAL for 10% off. I drink Gamer Subs every day. You get 100 servings out of a single pot, and I get half the profit from sales using my code, so you are directly helping support me and the channel. Would not be partnered if I did not genuinely enjoy the product. Anyway, speaking of Canary, I like to call her Canary. Live streamer 2 Electric Boogaloo is what she is. I thought she would be like one of the more interesting characters, but she's just a little bit spunky for a second there when you first meet her, and then just sort of devolves into another person that's just kind of there and wants to battle you over and over. They must have really liked her over at Game Freak. You battle her like 4 times in the main story alone. Never changes though. It's always the exact same fight. Yono, to be honest, was much more memorable. Honestly, most of the characters in Scarlet and Violet are more memorable than even the best ones in ZA. Of course, I have a bit of a bias there because I spent like over a year working on the Scarlet and Violet video, so that could just be me. But as I said, there are some fun characters here. The leader of Lumio City Yakuza, Corbeau, has a real, tangible personality, and his little story was one of the more interesting points in the game. Urbane borrows a bunch of money from a shady organization to make a Hotel Z promotion video, because that's always a good idea. We never get to see that video, by the way. They say he's doing it, and then we just don't see it. Probably because it would involve paying animators, and Game Freak doesn't want to, spend money to make their games. Anyway, oh no, it turns out that the loan shark business was a loan shark business, and now he's racking up more interest than he'll ever be able to pay off, forcing you and the dancing queen to clean up his mess because he up and dipped, and then even after you meet up with him again, and he's just kind of like, oopsie poopsie. Anyways, it turns out the people Corbeau suckered into contracts are being forced to do charitable deeds around Lumios, like clean up the sewers or help a guy move. It's a totally scummy, horrible thing to do to a person in order to make the city a better place to live. And I like that. I figured alongside, I'm assuming everybody else, that the Rust Syndicate was going to be the evil team, but my expectations were subverted. And that happens one more time in the game. Yippee! The stand-in professor, ex-Team Flare's Mabel, is a snarky, witty sort of gal. Am I here on my lonesome? Well, yeah. Oh my god, she got me. She's smart, she's blunt, she's selfish, and that makes her funny. I can't help but wish she was more involved with the story because, as you'll see later on, the endless loop of positivity from Urbane gets old pretty quick. And Naveen's a simp, I can't praise that. Jacinth, and by proxy, Laban, the best characters in the game. Jacinth, an elegant, egomaniacal elite, and Laban, her extremely reluctant maid, constantly trying to keep her rude, crude attitude under wraps while around Jacinth. There are some charming moments with these two, and that's quite rare in the main story. Most of the time it feels like you're just slogging through generic Pokemon dialogue. Because you are. You might think that it's weird that in the story segment there's very little story going on here, like I'm focusing on the characters, but that kind of is the story. Get matched against a character, do a little storyline about said character, usually jumping through hoops to even meet them in the first place, because God forbid the app have a way to contact your opponent and organize a battle. Then after that, maybe go fight some rogue mega Pokemon, and then repeat like 10 times until the game decides to follow up on that first cutscene. You get little tidbits about Zygarde and Lysander, L here and there, but it's exactly what you'd expect out of modern Game Freak. Oh my god, it's Zygarde! Quickly, chase it! But don't sprint though, you're not allowed to sprint because we can't make an actual chase sequence with any sort of lose condition. We'll just stop you anytime you try to go somewhere else, and Zygarde will stop and wait for you whenever you fall behind. What the fuck? This is cheap even for Game Freak. Still better than the Bombardier cutscene, though. There's the Team Flare members right at the end, but even though they're, again, set up to be villain-esque, it turns out that they stand for what the original Team Flare set out to do, not Lysander's Team Flare. Oh, heavens no. Before he took over, it was actually a big support group, and people just helped one another. And that's kind of everybody in the game. And because there's no real antagonist, no villain, nobody to even really root against, it has me wondering what the hell any of these characters are even trying to do to improve Lumios. From what I can tell, everybody in the damn city wants to help each other. Nothing fucking happens here. Oh no, Muscle Man's sister is missing. She could be in danger. And no, actually, she just wanted to hang out in the sewers. She's fine. Oh my goodness, there's rampaging Mega Pokemon all over the city. Actually, it's fine. They didn't do anything because we stopped them in time. Holy crap, we owe $6 million to the Yakuza? Actually, they're really very nice and they have good morals, so they forgive the debt after we do like 3 things for them. Uh-oh! I I can't think of a fourth thing that happens in this game. Nothing fucking happens. Tieno doesn't even make an appearance, and he's the most epicest guy I can think of. In fact, thinking about it, the amount of characters from the original X and Y that appear, you can count on one hand. AZ, Mabel, Lysander, Emma. Karina comes back in the $50 DLC. No Clement, who is the gym leader here in Lumiose, whose gym is the Lumiose Tower. Where is he? Did he roast to a crisp in there in that first cutscene? No Sycamore, no other gym leaders, no Elite Four, no Diantha. She's made a footnote in somebody else's text box. Game starts to feel just a little contrived when you realize Quasartico could have just pulled the Chairman Rose and asked her to deal with the tower problem, you know? And because nothing really happens here, it makes replaying the game one big snore. And once you've played the game the first time, there really is no reason to go back and do it again. Even a Nuzlocke feels bland. At least in Scarlet and Violet, after the long-ass tutorial, you can just kind of trot over to the event you want to partake in and go from there. But here, the exploration isn't varied enough, and the text-to-story ratio is swinging way too far in the pointless dialogue category. I'll go over the ending and post-game ride, at the end of the video, but for now, let's talk about the battle system and other new mechanics. As I said before, a big part of the game is going out at night and participating in the Z to A Royale. Essentially, it's a caged-off area of Lumiose that houses trainers wandering around that'll battle you on sight with the brand new battle system. I like it. It's a refreshing change of pace, mainly because I'm sick of Scarlet and Violet's battles taking so damn long. Here, you send out a guy, you lock on, and you start wailing away. It definitely needs a lot of improvement, a lot of polishing, certainly could do with a bit more depth, but as like a baseline, this is a good stepping point. Not for every Pokemon game, mind you, I still enjoy turn-based battles and the strategy they bring, but for the Legends games, if they improve upon the system, you won't find me complaining. Well, I'll be complaining, just probably about something else. Like those game keycards. I was a little worried about the depth of the battling and customization of the Pokemon after Legends Arceus with its sort of weird setup, but it's pretty much bang on with what you'd expect out of a regular Pokemon game here. Nature, EVs, IVs, hold item, thank goodness. Although they only included a certain amount of them here, mainly just the type power-up items and berries. But the one thing I really wanted to see, abilities, did not return. Still, a main staple since Generation 3, a huge part of Mega Pokemon's identities, which is one of the main selling points here, and a massive consideration for team building. Nope, couldn't be asked. I get it, it's a new battle system, some abilities would have to be reworked, like, I don't know, Clefairy's Friend Guard would be kind of pointless as there's no double battles here, or something like Sablei's Prankster, which usually gives priority to status moves in the turn-based combat style, but I can't imagine it'd be all that difficult. Friend Guard now allows you to take more hits from wild Pokemon while Clefairy is out. Prankster shortens the prep time of status moves, or gives them a shorter cooldown. It doesn't have to be rocket science, and speaking of Sableye, Mega Sableye without its ability Magic Bounce, poor thing's gone from nichely helpful to outright garbage in one swift strike. Abilities for Pokemon are so important for variety because without them, many Pokemon are just worse versions of other Pokemon. Like, why the heck would I ever use Slurpuff when there are like 10 other fairy Pokemon with just better stats and moves? Because I like the design? I mean, sure, that's something, yeah, great, but then the whole time I'm playing, I feel like I'm intentionally handicapping myself. The famous Pachirisu, that won Pokemon Worlds, did not do so because of its ability, but that would really help my case here. Look, abilities add an extra layer of depth to battles that makes your own Pokemon a little bit more unique and useful, even if only in very niche situations or teams sometimes, but for me, it's an extremely important part of Pokemon, and I'm actually quite disappointed that they didn't bother including them here. Would have been really interesting to see how they changed them up for this new battle system, like with the Quick Claw. Now, instead of sometimes allowing you to move first, now randomly lets you use moves a little bit faster, like I suggested for the Prankster ability that now doesn't exist. Anyway, in a Legends EA battle, your Pokemon will stick by you when you're running around. Makes sense, better than them just standing there whacking away at each other. When you execute a short-range move like Tackle, your Pokemon must approach the opponent in order to hit it. So what happens is a small circle will appear from you and make its way to your Pokemon, and they'll do the move. As if the information, your command, is stored in that small circle. Let's call it the command circle. I will never bring that up again. However, when you use a long-range move such as Leafage or Ember, what have you, instead the command circle will move to a spot to your upper right. What do you know? I did use it. And your Pokemon will move there first before executing the attack. I can only suppose this is for balancing reasons, because if you could just spam long-range moves while your Pokemon runs towards you from across the map, you'd be a lot harder to hit and, be able to dish a lot more damage than a close close-range combatant. So it ends up kind of forcing you to think about what sort of moves you want to put on your Pokemon to end up with the least downtime between them, which is where moves like U-turn and parting shot come in, allowing your Pokemon to quickly return to your side, meaning mixed attackers might have a better advantage with these moves. Of course, in practice, it doesn't make all that much difference, really, especially in the single-player story, but it's nice to know that there's some sort of new strategy here. Unfortunately, some niche interactions from the previous system, which I think could have been neat, are missing here. For example, using Bulldoze or Earthquake while a Pokemon is mid-dig doesn't actually do anything, whereas before it would hit the underground Pokemon as, you know, it's quaking the earth they're trying to dig through. You'd think this wouldn't come up very much, but because there are less moves than normal in this game, much like Legends Arceus, you do see dig a fair amount, and I remember plenty of times I used Earthquake on a digging Pokemon to no avail. I think because of the way they coded dig and fly, with the Pokemon just kind of vanishing completely, it doesn't actually go underground, of course, it was just easier to do it that way. But just because you can't hit a Pokemon underground or in the air, it doesn't mean you can't react, right? Like, you can use Protect or Detect. You don't have to sit there and take it, right? Well, in order to use a move at all in this game, you have to be locked on to an opposing Pokemon. Well, you have to be targeting an opposing Pokemon. The game doesn't lock on, per se. It forces you to hold down the left trigger the whole time, which, I mean, a toggle, please. This means, yeah, you do have to sit there and take it, unfortunately, unless the opposing Pokemon used Substitute, which gives you a target to use moves on. Pay to lose ass move. Or you could swap out, I guess, so a different Pokemon could sit there and take the move instead. Or if you're good, I suppose you could flat out dodge it, maybe. I don't know. What's a little frustrating with the system is that NPCs, of course, don't need to take the time to lock on. So oftentimes when your Pokemon will get knocked out and, you know, you'll send in your next one, the NPC trainer will immediately send out a move while you're stuck watching an animation. Not that the game is super difficult because of this, but it does sort of feel a little, I don't know, unfair, wrong. By the way, speaking of swapping Pokemon, you can't manually aim and throw your Pokemon out anymore like in Arceus, I guess to stop cheesy strategies in online. Now you just kind of nonchalantly lob them next to you. I mean, what the hell did you go and sue Pal World and then make them change their creature summoning system, Game Freak, if you're not gonna immediately, like, use that system in the very next game? I think abilities would have helped with the battle variety, as the longer you play, the more battles start feeling the same, especially when you're a grown man who's been playing since the GBA days. Whoa, Mega Malamar! That's crazy. Anyway, hit smash. Stat changes, as far as I can tell, have been simplified. Now I think you can only buff or lower a stat by one stage, and they don't last forever now. They wear off after a while, depending on the move, which is fine, although I do feel, again, that it might have made things a bit too simple. The one raise cap, that is, not the wearing off or said buffs. I think that's fine. It's like a fine change, but they don't really explain it all that well. Like, Fake Tears, for instance, normally would lower the target special defense stat by 2 stages, but here it says it lowers the target special defense stats? There's more than one? Bad translation, or am I missing something here? Items have been simplified too, mainly due to, you know, the lack of them. I mean, yeah, we've got berries and megastones, but regular battle items are mostly contained to what they didn't have to translate much. So aside from the previously mentioned Quick Claw, the only other held items are mostly pretty simple. A Rocky Helmet, Assault Vest, Focus Band, Eviolite, Muscle Band, the EV increasing items. Nothing too crazy here, nothing weird that they'd have to go out of their way to implement, like the Air Balloon or Bright Powder, seeing as there's no real accuracy checks here, and no choice bands or scarves, covert cloak, eject button, red card, obviously no held item that interacts with abilities, and no toxic orb or flame orb. I mean, what'd be the point without poison, heal, or guts, right? Trick and other moves to give your opponent your items don't exist, so no reason to have lagging tail or ring target and whatnot. No heavy duty boots, no sticky barb, you get the point. There's a lot of stuff missing here. Stuff I didn't even realize until I started listing off items, like there's no seeds because there's no terrain setup, there's no heat rock because there's no weather effects, apart from rain. Apparently rain was fine, but no rain dance. Wanna evolve Sliggoo? Screw you, buddy, wait like a bitch. I also thought, judging by the earlier cutscenes in a battle zone, that there might be double or even horde battles here, where multiple trainers will gang up on you or even on each other, much like in the online play, but no, it's just one-on-one battles, and one-on-one battles only, meaning it can get pretty boring one-shotting your opponent's Pokemon and then waiting and watching a cutscene for each new Pokemon they send out. Sometimes there isn't a cutscene, I guess because of positioning, I don't know, and you can walk around a bit, which feels much better, but the majority of the time it'll focus in and, you know, feel like a waste of time. There's also an end screen for every single battle, which takes just I want to say it takes about twice as long as it should. At least let me skip through it to speed it up, right? Like, if you're fighting 30 trainers in a night, or God forbid more, you don't want to be held up, any more than you already are. It would have been better if all the info just popped up in the HUD after a battle instead and let you get right back into the battle zone. There's also, of course, the cutscene where nighttime or daytime approaches, where every single time you're about to swap over into day or night, it feels like the seconds ticking closer and closer to your execution. I mean, the cutscenes aren't super long or anything, but it happens every single time, and it just gets, just a bit annoying. Anyone else get pissed off by these? I want to play the game, man. I don't care that the battle zone's been deactivated. Now, on the topic of other battle modes not being included in the single player, there is actually a 1v1v1 mode, just online. It's the only form of ranked battles, and it mainly involves either one-shotting somebody else's Pokemon or sniping to knock out, a Pokemon that somebody else was battling, and then you get the point. It's fun, for maybe an hour or two, but once you've got, the Mega Stone, they lock behind this mode, which is not a terrible thing in itself, honestly. Don't mind it all too much, but having to pay for online is the bad thing here. I already paid for the game. Man, I miss the times when the Xbox was the only inherently greedy one. PS3 online, free. Wii online, pretty ass, but free. PC is the only one left without an online subscription. I mean, I get that Nintendo's pricing is a little bit better, subscription-wise, but I use the online services twice a year for an hour total. It's just not worth it, man. And you can't get the free trial without putting your credit card in, so that's nice, so they can just start charging you without you knowing if you forget to cancel. That's not predatory at all. Anyway, so once you've got that Mega Stone, which they really shouldn't be locking behind paid online, you're kind of done for the most part. If you're anything like me, that is. I know there's some people who really enjoy the online, but I don't really see the point. I would have really liked to see a 2v2 mode. This, I think, would be, a game that would work splendidly with that. Queue up with a friend and battle other groups, and then abilities like Friend Guard could work. If it was in the game, if any ability was in the game. I don't know if it's the higher frame rate and less lagginess of this game compared to Legends Arceus, which still hasn't received a Switch 2 update for some reason, and I don't think ever will. It's definitely in need of it, but I feel that you, the player, control a lot better than in that game. I never felt like the movement here was stiff or unresponsive. It was perfectly acceptable this time, which was nice. You have a sprint, crouch, dodge roll, just like in Arceus, but also a sort of new double jump, glide-esque thing, I guess you can call it. It's good. Again, it makes me wonder why we can't just strap ourselves to our Rotom phones and just, fly around, but you can do some interesting jumps with this move. And that's kind of it. Yeah, there's no button to call your ride Pokemon in this game because there are no rideable Pokemon, not even Go-Go. And this is where you start to think that maybe the small scope of the game isn't just a small scope and rather just another issue of the game's production being rushed, which, I mean, if you didn't already think that, you're falling behind. Keep up. I thought the lack of Go-Go might be because we'd be able to ride our own Pokemon like in every other creature collecting game, but highest grossing multimedia franchise in the world apparently thinks that's too far out of scope. Your Pokemon can follow you, like in the other recent games, and when I say that, I really mean it. It's just like in the other recent games. They did not fix the movement speed issue. Somehow they've done a bit of a mix-up with out-of-ball mons. You can no longer interact with your Pokemon anymore, which is a glaring omission, but also they just kind of stand there. They have idle animations. Every Pokemon has idle animations, but they just don't really use them. That is, unless you sit at a bench or a cafe. Even Arceus, the game that completely removed following Pokemon in the one game that honestly could have really used it, at the very least let your Pokemon, do stuff. That and allowed them to be out all at once instead of, you having to sit on the patented hobo hobbler. Of course, regarding the speed of your Pokemon, the structure of the battle system this time around actually means there's a reason for them to run around at different speeds. Some Pokemon are going to be faster than others, giving them a competitive edge. It wouldn't make sense for every Pokemon to be the same speed, that's a given. However, can they not just have an out-of-combat speed equalizer for all following Pokemon? Is it that hard to have following Pokemon just run at the trainer's speed when out of battle? Surely not. They try to give a half-assed explanation that the Go-Goat that you ride around in X and Y got frightened away by all the wild Pokemon appearing in Lumiose, but I have a Go-Goat Game Freak. I'm not stupid. Why can't I just ride that? I don't need anything fancy. I just need a way to get around that's a little bit faster than running speed. Fast traveling everywhere just feels sort of lame. Well, at least there's the bike from every single Pokemon game in existence. Whoops, there's no bike in this game. Well, good thing there's the roller skates, the fun traversal method from X and Y. Why do I do this? I would have loved to see the roller skates returning, speeding around Lumiose, jumping on the construction scattered around the place to grind on it, gathering speed down hills and using the momentum to jump across rivers and what have you. Of course, that doesn't really even make sense as there's no hills at all in Lumiose, really. It's extremely flat, leading to my next section of the video, Lumiose City and its exploration. From the very beginning of the game, you can see that the game looks better than Legends Arceus and Scarlet and Violet. Not that that's a hard thing to do. Cute art on the wall, non-paper mache landscape, anti-homeless bench from the trailer, and our old friend, shockingly short render distance. I'm starting to look forward to seeing how they mess up the render distance with each new title. It's weird this time. Some NPCs far away will be visible until you walk closer and then they'll vanish, and then either they'll reappear again as you get closer or just never reappear ever again, which is already really odd. But then meanwhile, a person in front of them loads in normally. Well, I mean, it's normal as a 10-meter render distance can get, but what's the load-in priority here? Why does it work this way? Simply turning the camera shows off the weird culling and loading problem the game has. NPCs standing right next to you will take their sweet, sweet time loading back in when you look towards them. I feel like this shouldn't be an issue for the Switch 2 version of the game, so why is it happening this way? I mean, well, unsurprisingly, the extra money I paid for the Switch 2 version seems to have flown out of my wallet and directly into the CEO's pockets, because the render distance and the load-in issues seem to be the exact same on the Switch 1 version. Just there, the loading issues extend to environmental objects too. And speaking of environmental objects, what the hell are these buildings? Bloody hell, they're flatter than my ass! Actually, I shouldn't lie, my ass is quite juicy. Like, I get it, you suck at optimizing, your developers don't get enough time to actually finish a product, but yikes! What else can I say but yikes? What else do you want me to say? Zoinks? At least put some detail on the Switch 2 version's buildings, for crying out loud! Funny thing is, they did originally have balconies and window flaps and the whatnot on the buildings, just somewhere down the line in development they must have realized the Switch 1 version couldn't keep up with Game Freak's unoptimizable attitude and flattened them down like some sort of baker with a vengeance. Which leads me again to ask, why the fuck am I paying 20 extra bucks for the Switch 2 version when the Switch 1 drawbacks are still in the game? What am I actually getting with the extra cash here? Acceptable render distances for environmental objects, a standard frame rate for games nowadays, and less compressed textures? Game keycard? I just want to complain. Now, despite that, I don't think the game looks all that bad, honestly. Yo, guys, check it out. Remember polygonal grapes from Final Fantasy XIV? Here we got flat grapes. There's been a lot of uproar about the graphics in this game, and well, yes, Emma's ass probably has more polygons than all the buildings in Lumiose combined. Have you seen what we were working with before? There are some decent looking places here in Lumiose. Is that a fucking floating tree? Again, nothing a different AAA studio wouldn't be doing back on the PS2, but there are some spots here where you could be like, yeah, this is just okay. Guys, it's the meme! I didn't expect to find it so easily. I really did enjoy taking my time and looking around all the art scattered around Lumiose. Yeah, a lot of it does get reused, but it was always nice seeing a new funny little scatterbug or a Machop with milk. There's a fair bit of interesting art around, and it just shows, again, how talented the artists who work on these games are. Wow, this bit of art is amazing. Gamer subs with 10% off using code RADICAL. Now, some spots in Lumiose are not so decent. Anything outside of the city looks like an N64 game, and the hills you can see pretty consistently look like big piles of shit, especially at night. Urbane calls you up to the roof at one point for a quote-unquote stunning panorama, and it almost feels like another beautiful nature situation from Scarlet and Violet, although here it does help that Lumiose Tower doesn't look like it's made of mashed potato, even with the pretty terrible mountains. It looks like we're in a crappy bowl, surrounded by blank hills with nothing past them. Where's the rest of the region, man? There's nothing in the distance. Put something there, an image, a texture, come on! Also, that's not how you fist bump. Why are they holding it like that? Doesn't help that the camera lingers on the mountains every night with the unskippable, end of night cutscene. It pops up every single time. Guys, I can't. Why did they think it? 47 times! But overall, Lumiose City looks fine. It looks fine, and that's a big step for Game Freak. Well done, buddy! That's a gold star! As I mentioned, Lumiose is flatter than the buildings that reside in it, and that doesn't do the city any favors. Unlike in Arceus, there are actually places to explore now up and around buildings with secret spots, housing rare Pokémon and items you wouldn't be able to get to in any other way, which is neat, but unfortunately they didn't really do much to differentiate the districts in any meaningful way. They just changed the color of the roofing and the banners that hang off the buildings, it leaves Lumiose feeling really bland and forgettable. If you dumped me somewhere in the city, I probably would have no idea how the heck to get anywhere. Like, even 50 hours in, I was still getting confused as to where I was meant to go to get to certain places sometimes, but as an explorable area, it's certainly better than both Scarlet and Violet and Legends Arceus, so I mean, it's fine, it's okay. That's really the whole review right there. It's fine, it's okay. There's a few different sorts of optional exploration to do in Lumiose. I'd say pretty much all exploration is optional, actually. I don't know what the game experience would be like without going out of your way to look around. Probably a lot like Legends Arceus, I'd imagine. But really, that makes the replayability pretty stagnant, because after exploring the whole city like I did in my first playthrough, you realize, like I said before, there's really not that much of a reason to do it all again afterwards, because nothing changes and the city's really not all that big. I mean, there's the building tops, as I mentioned, which are home to items, Mega Shards, which you can exchange for Mega Stones over at Quizartico, and you can, as I said, you can find Pokemon up here, although I don't know how some of these guys got up here, like the monkeys and the birds I can understand, but how the heck is Arbok snaking his way up the flat fuck Friday buildings? Camera! One little thing about those Mega Shards, which I'm going to say like that because I don't want YouTube's auto, like bots scraping through the video and being like, he said the N-word! The only issue I have with the system is that they don't tell you the cap for these shards is 999, and when you're collecting them, they just neglect to tell you when you're full up. I wasted so much time smashing Mega Crystals thinking I was building up my big stack only to stumble across the pile in my bag much later that had been totally maxed out for hours. Why not just increase the cap, for crying out loud? We're not dealing with 255-bit integer limitations anymore, Game Freak, even though sometimes it feels like we are. You gotta be able to make it so we can carry more, man. Like, when you unlock the final items you can trade for at Quizartico, like the large candies, you can only carry enough shards for 9 of them. What a weird, arbitrary limitation. But even then, at this point, I would have even just been happy with a little notification telling me that I was full up something. It's definitely, not being omitted so it doesn't annoy the player every time they try to collect more shards when they're full up, because they're perfectly happy annoying them with 6 billion other notifications, like, Mabel popping up every time you catch a Pokemon, or the item collection jingle assaulting your ears at all times. Now you automatically pick up the little sparkle items on the ground instead of having to mash A when you run over them, like in Scarlet and Violet, which is good, but why make the jingle so long? And why have such a large gap in between notifications? Now imagine a consistent 48 hours of that. It might feel like nitpicking to some of you out there, but I really do think it's an oversight that could have been easily fixed. And when something is easily fixed, I feel like it's a bigger problem than something, like that have to go back to the roots of the game code and to figure it out from there. Like, for example, when I pick up a bunch of items in Breath of the Wild, it's a very short sound that plays immediately. Short, satisfying, and most importantly, I know what I've collected right away. Meanwhile, in Pokemon, I gotta wait 3 business days to figure out whether or not the last little sparkle I picked up was a berry, a mushroom, or the last shreds of passion from Game Freak's employees. Hi everybody, Future Rad here. So, going through the game to get footage for the, 999 Mega Shards thing, realized that, oh, wait a minute, I have over 999 Mega Shards. And now this isn't me being, silly and forgetful. Oh, I could do that the whole time. No, they updated the game to actually fix this issue, which is great. Problem is, it was way too fucking late. January 21st. Well after the DLC was released was when they decided to finally fix this issue, alongside letting you purchase more than 1 berry at a time, which should have, these things should have been in the base game. I have finished. I've played the game for what? How long? I've spent 92 hours. 92 playing Pokemon Legends EA, and it is only after that amount of time they decided to fix the 999 Mega Shard issue. It seems like everybody's finished playing the game at this point. I don't know what to tell you. Like, they're fixing it for what, like 2%? Why didn't you just do this at the start? I just don't understand. Like, does it take them really that long to update something so small? Sorry, I had to get that off my chest. While exploring Lumiose, you can run into certain roadblocks where you can use certain Pokemon moves like HMs from previous games. Like, you You get Rock Smash as a TM pretty early on to smash boulders, but any fighting type move works fine as well, alongside a couple of ground moves like Earthquake. There's Sludge Piles, which you'll need like a water or a psychic type move for. Brambles, use a fire move, so on and so forth. Actually, I think those might be the only 3 obstacles you need a certain type of move for. The ice crystals and the webs, I think you can hit with pretty much anything. But I bring this up because it's an idea which works well for a creature capturing game, and I prefer needing a specific move type over needing a specific Pokemon type, like in Pal World, for instance, where there you only get to have 5 on a team, so when you run into a chest that you can't open because you don't have the right type, it's kind of annoying. But also here, you have the box ready at any available opportunity, so you don't need to go anywhere and then come back. You can just open up the menu, swap your Pokemon around, and then get rid of the thing, which makes me think, why not just have, like, if you own a Pokemon, I mean, I guess moving the Pokemon into your party makes sense, because otherwise it would just be like, Squirtle used a water gun from the box! Yippee! As I also mentioned before, you can hop down in certain areas to find secret spots, but you can also use your Rotom Glide to get to other rooftops or areas you usually couldn't, which is neat. It would have been neater if the animation didn't halt and stutter in the air at the apex, but that's Game Freak! It also helps with the scaffolding obstacle courses that you'll find scattered around the city. Prizes await you upon completion, of course, such as items and TMs, or perhaps one of the colourful screws you can use to purchase upgrades. Yes, technically, you too can level up your stats in this game as well. EXP gain up, reward money up, mega shards up, player health up, and catch rate up, each with 3 tiers of power. It's a really good idea to get the catch rate ones as soon as possible. My playthrough was me struggling to catch anything until I stumbled across the building you trade for plushies halfway through the game. I just figured I hadn't unlocked the ability to use the screws yet. But no, the game just doesn't tell you where to go in a stunning non-hand-holding move from Game Freak for once. I was so used to being strung along to each and every little area, I didn't think I was missing out on anything. Now, as the entire full-price $70 game with paid DLC you can pre-order day 1 takes place in one big city, you'd expect a lot of that city to have accessible indoor areas for exploration and world building. No. There is a grand total of 2 explorable indoor areas in this game, and one of them is locked off to the very end of it, the other being the sewers, which are about as boring as they sound. It's a bunch of straight lines with nothing interesting to see or do. There are some indoor areas, Jacinth's Hotel, the lab, the museum, the copy-pasted restaurant, the Rust Syndicate spot, that one guy's apartment, the construction cruise base, Hotel ZA, Quasartico, the Looker Bureau, and aside from the last area at the very, very end of the game, which, I'll save till then, I think that's it. Like, it's pathetic enough I've resorted to trying to name all the indoor areas in a game in a series that makes the most money in the world, but I think it's even more pathetic that I can actually name them all. For me, there's nothing better than relaxing in a cafe with my Pokemon. Yeah, that sounds great if you could actually go in the cafe! A lack of indoor areas would be okay if the ones we had were very expansive and detailed with different things to do in them, tournaments, minigames, pseudo-dungeons, but most of them have no mechanical purpose whatsoever, just being a single room for set dressing. And even when there is a mechanical purpose, it's always in the form of just a single NPC standing there acting as a menu. If I'm being honest, I think there might be more interiors in the 3DS version of Lumio City, which was only one town and a region full of them. You'd think in a game focusing on one city overall would have more shops and buildings, but apparently no. Not only are there many shops that used to have interiors that got stripped away, turning into literal menus, the Ball Boutique, the Stone Emporium, the cafes, the hair salon, every clothing store in the game, but there are also shops and features that are just straight up missing. The PR Video Studio, the Go-Goat Shuttle, obviously, the Herborist, the Juice Shopper, the Lotto ID Center. The Furfuro Salon's been reduced to a single NPC standing in one random spot in the back streets without even the privilege of an icon on the map, so that's great. The more I look at Legends EA's Lumio City, the more it feels like a facade of a city. Something, whipped up to superficially look the part without having anything a city actually needs. And the Flat Fuck Friday buildings don't help. There are buildings here that I reckon were once planned to be enterable, available, but for whatever reason, budget, time, etc., all the Pokemon development staples were cut. And there's a fair few of them here, not just one or two. There are plenty of important looking buildings that are just unenterable. The town hall, the mail place, the university, or the school, whatever the hell it's called. You know, whereas in any Pokemon game before Sword and Shield, you know, you see a building, oh, I can go in there, let me go check it out. There's even a main story quest that exemplifies this problem. With Muscle Man, we're looking for a sister, and he says she likes to hang out by the, you know, aforementioned town hall. Of course, what he means by this is that she likes to loiter around the outside of it, because even though, again, it's an important building in Lumiose and workplace, the mayor that Mabel keeps insulting out loud, you know, this character that we hear about often, we never meet him because we can't go in because there is no inn. However, you can go inside the Wild Zones. This is my segue into talking about the Wild Zones. Wild Zones in Lumiose function as the routes of the game where you can explore and catch Pokemon. That's pretty much it. Nothing all that complicated. They do what they set out to, and it's pretty simple to check which Pokemon you haven't caught yet via the map. Catching functions almost the same as it did in Legends Arceus. You aim, or, well, lock on, then throw the ball. Maybe get a Pokemon's HP down first, which thanks to the battle system here feels much less of a chore compared to Arceus, especially since aggressive Pokemon will no longer just ignore Pokeballs now. Everything feels more reliable here, and not just because you get an extra shot at catching a Pokemon when you knock it out now. Your throws feel a little bit more accurate, and even when you do miss a shot, the ball guy picks it up and gives them back to you for free, so that's nice, I guess. There's no gyro controls, which is unfortunate, but also your Pokeballs barely go any distance at all before they vanish into the ether anyway, so there's no real point not to use the lock-on feature. However, the side effect of this is that you'll never ever make a trick shot like you can in like Pal World, for example, where the spheres there go super far. Trying to free aim and throw a ball over a gap doesn't work here, and if your ball hits a surface at any point, it just pops out of existence immediately. Arceus had similar issues. There, the Feather Ball was specifically designed for catching Pokemon from a distance, but if you're too far away, it just clunks off and then you're out of ball. Like, what the hell? The lock-on doesn't always guarantee the ball connects anyway. It's ever so slightly longer than the length of your throw. So if you try to catch from the near max lock-on distance, your balls just turn to ash mid-air. It's honestly a little bit infuriating. I don't know why this is. It could be because Game Freak really wants you to interact with Pokemon up close in order to catch them or something, but yeah, it is a bit annoying, especially if you can see a Dragonair on another rooftop and there's no way for you to get there yet. And I mean, sneaking up behind a Pokemon to hit a back shot is also harder when you have to get up so close. They actually removed any way to direct a Pokemon's attention to somewhere else in this game. So no berries that you can throw, no smoke bombs, no rocks, no mud balls, no spoiled apricorns. Like, I thought Arceus' menu management was terrible, yeah, but it doesn't mean just remove all the features that clogged it up. You just put it on a different button. It could be really annoying just having to wait for a Pokemon to turn around so you get your single shot at throwing a ball at it. It's even worse if the Pokemon is one of the ones that run away as soon as it spots you, like Ordino, which already has a very low spawn rate. At least some Pokemon you can find sleeping, so that helps, I guess. Alright, stay very, very quiet. What the fuck? That being said, the UI is better. It's a lot nicer having Pokemon on the D-pad and just Pokeballs on the shoulder trigger, even if it does get stuck kind of often and then you gotta press it again to get rid of it. Pokemon can also still attack you, the player, so you've also gotta be wary of that as well, although there's no punishment for blacking out now, so people have already figured out it's faster to die to a Pokemon than to go back to the Pokemon Center manually. Holy spagoli, she's black! I think this is the first time a Nurse Joy hasn't been white. Asian? Some of the wild zones are kinda interesting, acting almost like smaller, older style routes from earlier Pokemon games with a few different directions to head in and a couple of secrets, mainly items, to find. A good example of this being Wild Zone 5. It's not, amazing. It's not a black and white route revived into a modern title. God forbid they tried that. Why do you think BDSP was such a shit show? Could you imagine them trying to remake the original routes in 3D back when the best they could do at the time was Sword and Shield's hellish hallways? Alternate name for Sonic Forces. But Wild Zone 5, it's fine. It's the recurring theme of this video. It's fine. However, the further you play on, and with more wild zones being added over the course of the experience, the more you start to see areas that are just kind of underwhelming, as a lot of them end up just being urban streets or parks with some extra trees here and there and whatnot, with all of them looking pretty samey, just like the city. Was hoping to see these wild zones looking more, wild. Big grass, big trees, dark canopies, spooky abandoned buildings. They almost kind of get there with some of the zones, like the snow one and the Maybe the river one, although that one's pretty annoying to traverse because you can't surf in this game, so there's no way to cross it. But yeah, they could have done a lot better with these. I do have a bone to pick with the way you enter them as well. You gotta walk to the entrances and then hit the select button to walk inside, which again, with more and more of these things sprouting up the longer the game goes on, it ends up being pretty annoying if you want to leap from one rooftop to another, but that rooftop happens to be a part of a wild area, so you gotta go around and find an entrance first. I can't see how allowing the player to just walk inside from anywhere could break the game in any way. Maybe there's some Game Freak coding shenanigans happening in the background that I don't know about. Either way, annoying, but not the end of the world, I guess. I lived with it. Now, I mentioned Mabel's notifications before, but I kind of had to explain the catching in wild areas before I got too deep into them. To be honest, they're not all that important to the review, but there are some specific stuff with them that it wasn't really thought through, so I wanted to talk about it. So, during your expeditions into the wild zones, or even really just sort of in Lumios in general, I mean, where else are you gonna be, right? You'll constantly be notified of Mabel's missions when you progress through them. These missions will vary from battle a certain amount of trainers to smash a certain amount of mega crystals to catch a certain amount of one type of Pokemon. And that's where the issue lies, really, the amount of Pokemon they want you to catch. I enjoy catching Pokemon in this game. It's quick, it's fun, it's better than whatever Legends Arceus was doing, but you need to catch a lot of Pokemon in order to complete Mabel's missions. I thought because of this, there'd for sure be some kind of quality of life change made to, make releasing Pokemon you don't want or need easier, right? No! It's the same as it's always been. If you've got a special box for your main party like I did, enjoy the game always slapping all and any wild random Pokemon you've caught right in there because it just puts them in whatever box you've interacted with last. Like, can I not have an in-between box where the game stores Pokemon I've recently caught and then it sorts them by, level, shininess, user's choice, and then once you've taken all the Pokemon you want and transferred them into your real box, then you can just hit the big old release all button and all is good with the world instead of having to manually sift through your shit over and over each time you finish up one of the many missions. You don't even get little rewards for releasing Pokemon like you did in Legends Arceus. You get zip, zilch, nada, the big goose egg. If they weren't going to update the box system or even give us more boxes in the first place, God forbid, but that's a different issue, then they just shouldn't have made these missions full stop. One Pokédex entry for each Pokemon would have been more than enough. Or at least change the missions to be battle a certain amount of, a type of Pokemon. It just wasn't thought through. Anyway, now that I've mentioned the tiny little thing I definitely didn't want to spend too long talking about, we can move on to the Battle Zones, which are a new feature where you can, of course, battle trainers to collect points, and with enough points, earn a promotion ticket so you can participate in a promotion match and go up a rank. As I mentioned before, it's pretty much the main way the story progresses, so you'll have finished up a story event revolving around your last promotion match opponent, and then it's not long after until your phone leaps out of your pocket and hovers directly in front of your face to tell you, you've got another one coming right up! Thank God this doesn't actually exist in real life. Imagine getting a spam email and Rotom's like, hey, hot Miltank's in your area, wanna bang? I don't know why exactly they thought it was a good idea to set up your promotion match and then ask you to earn all the points that you need in order to participate. I mean, what happens if poor Zach, the Z rank, is all ready to go, but I get sick, so I can't go out there into a battle zone and rack up the required points? Is Zach just supposed to sit there and wait? The app doesn't even tell you where your opponent is gonna be, or even where you could maybe go to start a battle in the first place. What if you can't find each other? This actually becomes a problem pretty darn quickly. It's a very poorly thought out system, even in Universe, which maybe could have been the point, but the characters never blamed the app or Quasartico for making them jump through hoops in order to participate, so maybe it's set up like this to get kids used to being corporate shills early on in life. I mean, I like the idea of having to earn the points in general and the battle zone system. It's kind of like the work up to the gym leader in previous games. You gotta battle through the gym to get to the gym leader, and here you gotta battle through the battle zone to destroy the dream of a single guy trying to enjoy his hobby after a long day at work. But it'd probably make more sense if they'd have done it the other way around. Not that it matters, there's a lot of stuff in the Pokemon world that doesn't make sense. I don't know why I'm specifically pointing this out. So, in order to crush Zach, or anybody else's dreams of that one big Quasartico wish, we gotta battle a bunch of trainers in the battle zones at night. These battle zones take place in sectioned off areas of the map, no unique areas, but They're fine. You can sneak around and catch opponents off guard to deal damage to an opposing Pokemon before the battle's even started, or even knock it out completely. In fact, if the opponent only has one Pokemon total, it'll just end the battle right there and then. Although, after the first few battle zones, they give every trainer at least 2 Pokemon, which makes that mechanic pretty null and void, so I don't know why they did that. You can find coins and cards scattered around the battle zones, which both net you more battle points. Coins give you a small amount for picking them up, but the cards give you small challenges, which you can complete to get quite possibly a much larger amount. These are the best ways to grind for money the fastest, as the more points you have at the end of the night, the more money you get, with an up to 3 times multiplier based on the amount of trainers you've beaten on said night. But unfortunately, the challenges are pretty basic, and mostly because the gameplay is pretty basic, I suppose. This means you're going to see the same 2 challenges with different stipulations over and over again, mostly. Use a certain type of move a certain amount, or use that certain type of move but have it be super effective, or have it knock out a Pokemon. And then there's the sneak up on trainers challenges, which is basically the same. Sneak up and use a certain type of move, or sneak up and knock out the opponent immediately, or wow, sneak up and use a certain type of move to knock out an opponent. Whoopee! It's nice that they're here to spice things up slightly, but honestly, it's kind of a blessing that about a quarter of the way through the game, they just have you skip several ranks. Of course, this is at a point in the story where you might still be finding the Battle Royale like fresh and exciting, so it feels a little bit cheap that they just blast through a bunch of the ranks. I, for one, was enjoying meeting and battling unimportant but eccentric characters like Zack, the Z-rank aficionado, our Rotom phones clashing like boxes before a match. Boy, this sure would be a great spot to show off my Rotom phone customization. I sure am glad that's still in the game. Zack says that once he reaches rank A, his wish is to abolish all forms of transit in Lumiose, except taxis, which would be a funny joke in any other game, but if you've been paying any modicum of attention so far, you'll realize that here in Legends EA, they forgot to add any other mode of transportation. There is no way other than taxis to get around Lumiose. There are no cars on the street. Anyway, having to do 26 different battle zones and promotion matches would have gotten pretty boring. Sure, I get that, and that's probably why they didn't make you play them all, but then they make you do even more in the post-game where all the battles devolve into boring one-shot fights because all of your Pokemon are level 100. Sorry, I'll get to that later. But in reality, it's not the Z to A Royale, it's the Z to V and then F to A Royale. Skips out on half the alphabet. Maybe instead of having the ZA Royale become super boring after a couple of wins, Game Freak, maybe you could have, I don't know, spiced it up with different elements to keep things fresh, maybe? New areas, new missions, new rules, new music, new unlockables? But that's getting into, production level issues with Game Freak as a whole and how it makes games in general, so let's just move on. I've got more to say about the battle zones, but to be honest, it'll make more sense once I've talked about the finale of the game and the post-credit stuff, so I can go over that more. Then, for now, what I'd like to talk about is the final talking point in the Lumiose City review section, the side quests. Now, I've mentioned the story being a bit of a bore, but looking at the side quests and comparing them, I kind of wonder why that is. There are plenty of side quests here with a bit of charm to keep you occupied, and you think that the majority of the charm would go to the story, but no, the charm is going to the side quest. But the story should have more than the side. Look, some are as simple as bring me this Pokemon or battle me, but there's a fair few with a bit of charm in there, as I said, at least as much as the developers working on these side quests could squeeze in, like the Spooky Litwick quest or the Strange Starmie Club quest. There's the Museum Spupa quest, or the one where the guy's marriage is falling apart. There's a ton of moments here where you can tell the people making the quests wanted to do something funny or interesting, but it's got to be really, really difficult to actually create your ideas when the stipulations and requirements being forced upon you are so restrictive. I don't think there are ever any custom animations or textures or models or music for any side quest. The developers have to work with exactly what they're given. Like, if they're making a side quest and they're thinking, oh, it would be funny if, I don't know, Lucario falls over here, they can't get a falling animation made. They gotta go look and see if they've got an already pre-existing animation for Lucario falling over, which, they don't, apart from the fainting animation, so tough shit, I guess. You can actually see this in the Litwick quest when it accidentally teleports off a ledge. It was mildly funny, but it would have been actually funny if there had been a real falling animation. And also, it didn't look like it was being moved like a fucking cinder block downwards at an even pace. God forbid the richest multimedia franchise in the world shell out a couple of extra bucks to make their games better. No, they can't afford that. That's why they're using game key cards. I was thinking while off work, over and over, trying to figure out what the side quests reminded me of, and then I had some sort of epiphany. They remind me of the side quests in fucking Final Fantasy IV 14. It's the exact same system there. No custom animations, no custom characters, no custom music, just text boxes and pre-made animations. They try to make them interesting with camera angles and dialogue, but there's only so much you can do with the limited scope. However, in that game, it's a fucking MMO. There's like 6 billion side quests, and they're mainly there for a bit of flavor, so you can learn a bit more about the people and environment you're in. Here, however, in the highest grossing multimedia franchise in the world land, the side quests are much more important, being tied to battle items, tutorials on status afflictions, and even specific Pokemon that you can't get any other way. In my 60 hours of playing the game, most of that was doing the side quests. So you think they could spring for a little bit of extra spice to liven them up? That being said, I like doing the side quests because funny Pokemon, I like those guys. But also I felt like I was actually being rewarded, unlike in an MMO side quest that give you like 4 gold and a good luck, pal. You get items to sell, your evolutionary items. Again, they'll teach you about status effects, like how now paralysis doesn't stop you from attacking. Instead, it just lowers your Pokemon's movement speed. And sometimes they'll fix up teleporter pads to help you get up to new areas, which is more, roofs. They'll show off battle items while against you in battle, if they get the chance. Sometimes you'll even unlock customization options, which I will get to eventually. Oh my god, I still have so much to talk about. There are even special quests with battle stipulations, like having to use a specific Pokemon, like Aurorus versus Tyrantrum, or Raichu versus Alolan Raichu. There's even a spoof Elite Four, where every member only uses Furfrou, and you've got to fight him with your own Furfrou, and then the final member has a shiny Furfrou. And this all, of course, is tied to the quests where you have to teach a Scyther a certain move so it can learn how to cut a Furfrou's hair, thus unlocking the Furfrou Salon, which unfortunately, as I mentioned before, does not have an icon on the map, so good luck finding it again afterwards. There's even a mock sky battle, like the ones in X and Y that nobody liked, because what did they do to my precious boy? I had not been leveling up any flying Pokemon though, so I had to just abuse revives. The item mechanic is now on a cooldown like your Pokemon's moves, and it's just that sort of length where you can revive spam if you need to. So you can imagine how much bullshit I pulled out my ass to squeak out that one. To be honest, the hardest battles in the game are part of a side quest. Restaurant Lawao. You gotta fight like 12 trainers in a row with no breaks, no healing in between, and you can't use items. The first trainer starts off with poisoning your Pokemon as well, so I had to attempt this one multiple times and actually prepare ahead of time. Of course, there are the side quest stinkers too, kind of inevitable when you have over 100 in the game. Quests like fight Chespin 3 times in a row, or find a certain stick on the ground, but the game doesn't actually have a specific location for the stick, so it's actually always the last one you pick up, so that's great. But even so, I found myself doing every side quest pretty much as soon as they popped up, because the ones that were good, at least for Pokemon, this isn't The Witcher 3, were interesting enough to keep my attention. Because even if it was a bit of a stinker, there was always a little bit of story to go along with it. There's a quest where all you do is walk down the road for 20 seconds, but it's disguised as you looking after a Slurpuff, so I mean, it's kind of cute, right? In fact, as one of these side quests, one of the 3 mandatory ones that Emma gives us right at the start, that we learn that Alpha Pokemon are indeed back from Legends Arceus. And they show this with a... Jesus Christ! These were always my favorite part of Legends Arceus. We need a horror game about these things, man. Asymmetrical Pokemon horror game where 4 trainers try to catch an Alpha Pokemon controlled by a 5th player. That'd be great. I wasn't sure that Alpha Pokemon would be returning this time around, mainly because Game Freak seems inconsistent on removing features that brings me the slightest semblance of joy. But I really thought that'd have been replaced by the Mega Pokemon, which were of course making a return after being scrapped early on in Sword and Shield's development. But now not only have Mega Pokemon returned, but they've been joined by a slew of newcomers. Now to be honest, Mega Pokemon are not exactly my favorite regional gimmick, if you want to call it that. Honestly, just giving old Pokemon new evolutions, branched evolutions, and regional forms sort of scratches that itch for me, although I will say seeing old Pokemon that usually wouldn't be getting an evolution due to their already existing strength get a new design thanks to Mega Evolution is always neat to see. There's a lot of Generation 1 Pokemon which I always wonder what would look like if they had been designed recently as opposed to at the very start of the franchise. And with Mega Forms, we can kind of see that, more so with some rather than others. And I think that's why when the gimmick first came out, there was such a focus on older Pokemon, aside from the Gen 1 bias and nostalgia baiting, of course. So why are these rogue Mega Pokemon even here? What the heck are they doing? Well, they're Mega Evolving because of the weird energy Lumio's tower is generating. That's kind of it. Does it sound familiar? As I mentioned throughout the story, there'll be certain occasional outbreaks of Mega-related Pokemon, and you alongside the MZ crew have to stop them. This kind of boils down to a big boss fight, which is neat, although, to be honest, mechanically they're all kind of the same, and well, not at all challenging. You're supposed to Mega Evolve in these fights to deal proper damage to the rogue Pokemon, but you can also use plus moves, which are regular moves but do more damage. I don't know exactly how much, it's never really explained all that well, if at all really. You can activate a plus move by pressing the plus button, which is in the running for the worst possible button you could have put that on, and that'll expend a section of your Mega energy. You can of course also use this bar to Mega Evolve your Pokemon, no shit. Just know that if you decide to Mega Evolve a Pokemon, there is, at least to my knowledge, no way of turning them back to normal, unless A, you run out of energy, or B, your Mega Pokemon faints. This doesn't sound terrible until you've got a Mega Evolved Pokemon in your party midway through a battle zone and you want to Mega Evolve a different member, but in order to do that, you either have to stand there and waste precious time, or go into a battle and waste real life time. Oh, wait, hang on, I'll just put them back in the box. Just a menu option would be fine. Just let me unmega when out of battle. Why is Game Freak still stuck in the Middle Ages? Surely this is something they could easily update the game to include to give people a better experience. Oh right, they're pumping out the DLC that they've been working on for months before the game was even released. Right, game keycard. So what new Mega Pokemon are there anyway? Well, I thought for sure they were going to blow their load early and show off pretty much every new Mega before the game was even released. I mean, heck, that started showing off the DLC Mega Evolutions. What was I supposed to think? But blow me down, there's actually 26 new Mega Evolutions total, including the ones that you gotta get online, so you gotta pay the Nintendo subscription. But 26! There's only a little over that and to start off with an X and Y. Of course, a bit of my interest in Mega Evolutions is how they change battle-wise compared to the original, and that is mainly due to new abilities, so we're kind of just reviewing the designs here, but let's begin. Each of the starters, Chikorita, Tepig, and Totodile, all get Mega Evolutions. I will say that the starter choices in ZA were a little contentious since even the announcement of them, and rightly so, really. Chikorita, Tepig, and Totodile? Honestly, I don't think I could pick a less popular trio. Maybe Chespin, Poplio, Tepig. Don't get me wrong, I like all of them enough. There's nothing wrong with them. They ain't Chimchar, but it really does feel like they specifically went out of their way to try and boost the popularity of these three. Maybe to get rid of unsold plushies. I mean, the American Pokemon Center was giving them away with your pre-order, if I remember correctly. Actually running out and swapping the plushies with pins. Gosh, that's not anywhere near as good. Or maybe they really did just want to use these three. Although having two from Generation 2 and then Tepig is a weird choice, I'll say at the very least. But hey, let's give them all something called something epic. A Mega Evolution each. They're not very good. Let's start off with Meganium. Upon Mega Evolution, it gains the Fairy typing, sprouts a bunch of more flowers around its neck, antennas go curly, grass around the ankles. It's pretty weak. It's nice, it's cute, it's an update that Meganium needed, really, but Meganium's base design doesn't really have a lot to pull from, so when you give it a form where all it's doing is adding more of the previous, it just ends up a bit underwhelming. I think a regional form would have worked a lot better here. You know, give the design something else to work with, or even just update Meganium in general, you know? Like, it's not like it's too late to add the Fairy typing to its base form, but it's cute, so I can't complain all that much. Embor's Mega Evolution gives them extra flames and fur around the body to look like armor, alongside a fire spear used for battle. I like that the flames and the fur combined, you know, to make some sort of scary face on the chest. I don't know if that was intentional, but other than that, this is sort of another nothing Mega Evolution. It works, it's fine, nothing against it, but it's just not for me, I think. Mega Feraligatr, however, I can expressly say without a shred of remorse, looks like booty cheeks. And not the good kind. They took regular Feraligatr, added some extra spikes, slapped a giant, stupid-looking hood on the guy and called it a day. This shit looks goofy as hell. Now, I actually really love the idea of the hood coming down and combining with Feraligatr's spiky arms to create a giant Totodile head with a crazy strong bite, but you're only seeing that animation for like a second at a time, whereas the rest of the time you're stuck staring at goody hoodie hair. It's gotta be tough running around with that thing on. How much air does that thing catch? Good idea, bad execution. I think the reason why I dislike the start starters Megas here is because usually Mega Evolution alters body shape, which really helps sell the Mega in Mega Evolution. And when your 3 starters are running around looking almost identical to how they looked before, especially in Feraligator's case, it's just not exciting. It's why Mega Venusaur felt like the weakest of the Kanto Trio's Megas, because all they did was give it a bigger flower and more foliage. Sound familiar? I don't know. As I said, I think the trio here would have been better off with regional forms instead. Honestly, you could take every Mega Pokemon in ZA and give it a regional form instead, and I'd have been much happier. At least then I know there's a higher chance for it to stay relevant in future games. I mean, who knows if Game Freak's gonna use Mega Evolution even for the next game, right? Next up is Mega Clefable, which sprouts wings and a beret, becoming a fairy flying type. I really like it. Clefable is a Pokemon I think could use a bit of sprucing up, and this does the job quite well. Its wings become actually usable. I like the French inspiration with the beret, the ears or the horns drooping and becoming wide and flat towards the ends. That's cute. I think it's great. Mega Victory Bell, a good example of a goofy design done right this time. The story here being that Victory Bell has so much poison goo stored up it has to wring its own neck tight just to keep it all inside. I like how because his eyes are still below his mouth, you can't really tell if he's upset about this or if he's giddy with glee. And I guess Game Freak really likes him too because they made a special animation to promote it, following a duo of I guess, mystery hunters who enter some sort of explorable indoor area. So that's false advertising right there. That isn't in the game. Mega Starmie! This one was crazy seeing it for the first time in game. What a shock! Or at least it would have been if it wasn't, like, super spoiled ahead of time. I think a bunch of them were, to be honest, which, I don't know, man, like, leak something actually interesting. Let's see what the heck Game Freak's doing with all that money. Sure as hell ain't going back into the games. Like, I don't need to see that Goldeen has a new regional form. That's not what I'm interested in. That's the one bit of joy that I can still leech out of new Pokemon games, you know? The new Pokemon. Anyway, Mega Starmie, it's another goofy one. It doesn't change all that much in terms of design, but what it does change completely alters the feel and personality of the Pokemon, which I think is a big, big plus. You might not like the design per se, but you can't say it didn't have an impact, unlike some of these guys. Mega Dragonite! I wasn't quite sure what to think of this one originally, but it's grown on me a lot, and I do actually prefer it to the original design at this point. In fact, I wish I could just have it as the original design. And as I said, I do think Game Freak might be using this opportunity to go back and kind of redesign a few of the original Pokemon that they might not, you know, be super happy with nowadays. And I think you can definitely see that with Dragonite here. The original design does have that big issue where it doesn't really look connected to its previous two stages, like, at all. So seeing it with a few baubles and, you know, a couple of body parts that represent its part in a lineage is nice to see. And its shiny is even blue, which is great. Mega Skarmory! To me, this is maybe the most forgettable Mega in the entire game. Give it a bunch of spikes and paint it yellow, job done. This is boring and kind of doesn't make a lot of sense with its Pokédex entry. It says it flies faster than the speed of sound, but it's got so much going on here, it just looks awkward, and I feel like its talons would get in the way more than they, you know, would be a benefit to the Pokemon. I mean, Skarmory's design was already very cool, and I think maybe they were afraid to change it too much and detract from that. I don't know. It'll probably be good and competitive, but I think they could have done something more interesting here. Mega Frostlass is another banger, making her a tall, imposing creature, which even more so now visually represents the Japanese tale she's based on, the Yuki Onna. Honestly, no notes here. They altered the body shape. She looks more powerful. Love the misty fog rolling out from beneath her cloak kimono. I love it. I was surprised to see Excadrill get a Mega here, and even more surprised to see it be this. I don't think I'm in the minority here thinking it looks stupid, and yeah, again, not in the good way. It looks awkward and just, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, I get what it is. It's a bigger drill. I get the idea. It's just, I don't know. I'm not a fan. It looks like he's got a giant cap on and two huge oven mitts. Trying to get a lasagna out of the oven. Mega Scolipede. They've transformed the speedy bug horse into a bulky bug horse, and I like it. I thought it might have changed typing somewhere, you know, to steel, but nope, still bug poison, which is fine. Love the big horns alongside the armor. I happened to stumble across a shiny Venipede while playing as well, so it was an easy addition to the team. Mega Scrafty is an interesting idea. That is, you know, the power went to the shed skin rather than the Pokemon itself. I think that's how it works, with it becoming strong and supple. It's, I mean, it's alright. No strong feelings one way or the other. It's more interesting than Mega Embor at the very least. Mega Electrode. Electros. Gee, they really did give this guy something cool and then just yank away the only other thing that made him unique in one foul swoop, that being removing its ability, of course, Levitate, which makes it the only Pokemon in the game without any weaknesses. A huge nerf aside, Mega Electros is really neat. I think it's really cool that they used inspiration from the real-life hagfish to create its mucus arms. Hagfish can create a sort of slime at will to literally choke the fish trying to eat it. Unfortunately for Electros, its extra mega stats get kind of thrown everywhere. 30 in attack, 30 in special attack, 10 in special defense, 30 in speed, which makes it too fast for Trick Room teams and now too slow to outspeed any threats naturally. Maybe they've got something planned for its ability. I mean, there's a few Pokemon here where that's most likely the case, but we'll just have to wait and see, I suppose. I'm sure somebody will let me know in the comments when all the abilities have been revealed and they didn't bother checking to see when this video was made. Mega Chandelure! I love Chandelure, most people do. And this is more Chandelure? That's good. That's good. Nothing wrong with it. It's just not super exciting. It's neat, but that's kind of it. Moving on. Mega Pyroar! What the fuck did they do to you? I had a Pyroar for pretty much my whole adventure, never really expecting a Mega Evolution, but lo and behold, right at the end of the game, one of the characters starts to Mega Evolve their Pyroar, and I'm going, what the heck? And then this. I know it's the Japanese symbol for fire, like fire on top of fire, like an inferno compared to Pyroar's blaze, but wow. Like, this genuinely sucks. Like, this is right at the bottom of the tier list. They had like 5 minutes. What is this? Mega Malamar is an interesting design. A big brain and a high-collared coat, and it has a new thing it does. They're being hypnotizing people. Not my favorite design, but it does do something interesting with Malamar, and that's really what matters here. Doesn't in any way feel like a half-assed design. Mega Barbaracle. It becomes a rock fighting type instead of its usual rock water. Like, man, I like Barbaracle, and I think it's neat that the Head Hands is doing the rocker devil horns pose, but I don't know, man. Something about its dead, soulless eyes just rubs me the wrong way. Mega Dragalge is a cool one with its false head and I think false body too. He's kind of funny and cool at the same time, which is really neat. The design I feel is a little overcomplicated. Sometimes it's a bit of a mission to figure out what exactly I'm looking at a glance, but maybe that's the point, you know? After all, it is based on the leafy sea dragon, a creature who's evolved to camouflage itself, so it makes sense even if the design as a whole looks a bit busy as a result. Mega Howlucha! He grows big and puts on clothes. Not a fan. Really, really boring. Mega Phalanx is a neat idea, although I think it does look a little bit awkward in execution, specifically the little guy holding up the head. I mean, those aren't stable supports, young man. I know some people really like this one, but I can take it or leave it. I think base Phalanx is funny enough already. Mega Drampa! This one's great. The bright white fluff turning into thunderclouds into more imposing stature. I love it. I wish I could have had this one in the story, but you can't get Drampa until you're nearly finished with the game, and even then I don't think you have access to Drampa Night until even later than that, if I remember correctly. But hey, if I want a Drampa at the beginning of the game, no problem, right? Just get a friend to breed a Drampa and trade one over. Oh wait, there's no breeding! Yeah, there's no eggs, so you can't get a Pokemon earlier than Game Freak wants you to have it. Maybe when Pokemon Home is active and set up for ZA, which I'm still kind of flabbergasted it takes so long for Game Freak to update the software with each new release. You think that beyond that shit, you'll be able to bring in some later Pokemon early, or that is assuming you own the appropriate games. Like, Drampa's not in Scarlet or Violet or Sword. It is in Shield though, so buy Pokemon Shield, breed a Drampa, hatch the egg, because there aren't any eggs in Legends EA, so I don't think they'll let you bring one in. Transfer the baby Drampa to Pokemon Home, send it over to Legends EA, and voila! Yeah, what a fucking rigmarole just to get a single Pokemon. Yikes. Just put a daycare in Lumiose. It's not like you're full up on shops and there's no room left. A lot of Mega Stones you don't actually have access to until later on in the story once you've seen the Mega Pokemon. Meaning if you want Mega Starmie, a Pokemon you can get extremely early on, I'm talking like in the first hour, you have to wait until the late game story event where one goes rogue because Dancing Queen kept forgetting to evolve her Staryu and they wanted her to show off the Mega first. Like, girl, she's had to be physically handed a water stone from the Yakuza to get her ass into gear. Or hey, if you wanted that Mega Dragonite, the one Game Freak announced way ahead of time to get you excited for the game, that's also super late in the story. And usually that would make sense because Dragonite evolves at level 55, but at the end of the story missions, I had a bunch of level 90s and one level 100. It just means that if you're wanting to use certain Megas during the game, your only real choice is to wait for the DLC to come out, purchase it, of course, and then use them for that. If you consider DLC proper story content anyway, I guess we'll see. I have seen it at this point. I'm gonna do a review on it, I swear, but you know, we'll get there. Now, there are 3 extra Mega Evolutions that are not a part of the game at all, actually. Chestnut, Delphox, and Greninja. And in order to get those, as I have mentioned before, you gotta play the online, and you'll only really have a shot at that with fully evolved Pokemon. I suppose it's possible if you know what you're doing, you can hop in there with some decent moves and EV training to get the stones early, but that kind of means you're already familiar with the game, meaning you're probably on your second playthrough, meaning you've either deleted your original save file or more likely you're using a different user account on your Switch because God forbid having multiple save files on a singular account, meaning you can't use the same Nintendo Online subscription on 2 accounts even on the same Switch. You've also got to cough up cash for that too. God damn it, man, I hate modern gaming. The Megas here are all pretty good as well, actually. I would have been much keener to have these 3 rather than the Geek Squad we were actually handed. Greninja looks cool, Delphox grows a beard despite the furries, and Chestnut actually looks incredible. Wish this was his base design, to be honest. And of course, they held his Mega Stone hostage until the 3rd season of Online. Great. Oh, did I not mention that? Yeah, they staggered the releases. Like, I'm all for rewards for playing online, but these are the Kalos starters, man. They should have been in the base game, at least I think so. I was kind of hoping Arbok would have gotten a Mega here in ZA, although to be fair, it kind of needs a proper evolution anyway, so maybe they're holding off for that. There's actually a few Pokemon that I thought might have been in the running to get a Mega while playing through the story, however, none of them turned out correct. Florges, Furfrou, Goodra, Heliolisk, I mean, nearly the whole decks in ZA have Mega evolutions that I managed to single out like the 4 that get jack shit. Even the Watchog line gets the cool new power of spawning as a shiny every 4 steps. However, being so wrong did leave me with a great deal of surprise every time I'd see like a major trainer that's definitely going to Mega evolve their Pokemon finally send out something that I wasn't really expecting, like Clefable. Finally, it can do something online instead of leaving everything to its younger brother. The main shocks were definitely Skarmory, Excadrill, Drampa, Phalanx, and Barbaracle. As some of the Megas you can see coming ahead of time, like Corbeau and his Scolipede, or Muscleman's sister. She turns up at the Canary quiz with her Chandelure cosplay, and you can spot the Mega Stone on it if you're paying attention. Same with Canary and her Electros. Anybody with the distinct Ace has them as a Mega evolution, so spoiling the Ace spoils the Mega. Same with the Rogue Megas. You see what they are on the map ahead of time. Not that seeing what Pokemon is going to Mega ahead of time is a bad thing. It lets you come up with ideas on what you think it could look like beforehand, and then it either surprises you with something even better than what you could imagine, or Mega Chandelure, which is exactly what you imagined. Speaking about rogue Pokemon, what's weird is that they made Mega Venusaur a rogue battle, but Charizard and Blastoise's Mega Stones are just available in the shop earlier. I was wondering why Venusaurite wasn't there. I thought maybe they'd just forgotten it, to be honest. I mean, they did forget to update the Mega model, so it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibilities. If you didn't know already, the Kanto trio got a big facelift in Scarlet and Violet alongside a few other Pokemon, and now they look much, much better than they used to. Unfortunately, as I just said, the Mega Evolutions were not updated, so now there's a pretty stark quality differential when they transform. It's just another little thing that comes off kind of half-assed, just saying. Now, every major trainer in the game also has their own special spot for their Mega Stone, which lead to usually some pretty neat animations to show off their personality. Jacinth has her bow, Corbeau has his badge, Canary has her boobs, Vinny has his glove, and yet, once again, we're stuck with the nerd bracelet. Same with Urbane, because he's as boring as the player character, which segues into the next section of the video, character customization. Legends EA takes place in the Kalos region, the region whose debut games introduced character customization and fashion into the main series. Then they immediately removed it with ORAS, but I digress. After Scarlet and Violet's, less than stellar fashion options, I wasn't holding out a lot of hope for Game Freak's passion for fashion to come back in ZA, but the trailers proved me wrong, specifically going out of their way to show different clothing options in-game. I guess they changed their minds about opting out of the extra effort required for real customizability. Some things, though, some things never change. Yep, it's your favorite 4 old skin tones. I mean, not the end of the world, but I tried to make a goth girl for a second playthrough and you can't get pale enough. There's too much sun in Lumio City. Now, while I do like the character models here in ZA, and I'm glad there's still a character customizer in general, there's a lot of options missing here if you directly compare it to Scarlet and Violet's character creator, which really was one of the only things that game actually did quite decently. Well, for a Pokemon game, just don't look at any other character creator in existence. I understand the second development team they've got working on the Legends games probably were making ZA with, midway through Scarlet and Violet's development, so I can understand not reusing or modifying the player model from that game and expanding upon it, but even so, you can't help but notice that there's just less eye options, less brow options. You can't even customize your hairstyle to start off with. You gotta wait till you've unlocked side quests like an hour in. Most of the facial features from before are here to still be customized. Where's my cat mouth, Game Freak? What, did Emma steal it? It's just that there's far fewer options overall, which really kind of sucks, especially for a game based in, again, the most fashion-centric region in the Pokemon series. What I'd really like to see them do is take this specific player model, or just a player model in general, doesn't, just take one and focus on expanding upon it for each new release. Let us end up with a bunch of different head shapes, a larger variety of eye shapes, different noses. I want to see real diversity, you know what I mean? Like, even in Scarlet and Violet, we're only changing superficial stuff. I want to be able to pick a different body type, a different age, a different height, make my trainer its own identity. Heck, I could walk into a plastic surgery place and completely change my look in real life as compared to a fucking fake video game. It's ridiculous. Give us different walking and running animations, different Pokeball throwing animations, you get me, right? But that's probably asking just too much from the highest grossing multimedia franchise in the world, Game Keycard. The hair salon this time does have some new features this time around, which are very neat. Blocking and gradienting your hair with an extra color. It's very nice and allows you to go a little bit more in depth on how you want your character to look. I thought they were missing a bunch of colors at first, but a little ways on into the game, a side quest activates, allowing you upon completion to gain those colors as a permanent unlock, and then another quest a bit later unlocks even more. This is really cool. I love being able to unlock cosmetic stuff. There's even a quest later on to unlock some wacky contact lenses. I know Scarlet and Violet had all this unlocked from the get-go, but I don't mind the stuff being side quest rewards, or at least, I don't, assuming they aren't just taking stuff we've already had in previous games and locking it off pretending it's new, whereas in reality they're recycling the same stuff from before. But hey, just because the hair colors are old doesn't mean that the eye contacts aren't pretty cool. I like these things, they're pretty neat, and the pastel colors are new, so either way, not a big deal at all. As I said, I actually prefer having to unlock stuff as a reward rather than just having everything handed to me at the start. You start off a bit skimpy with the hairstyles too. You have a few different options, but you only begin with 14 different styles, which sounds like, maybe an okay amount at first, but Scarlet and Violet started off with 25 and then added 14 more with the DLC, ending up with 39. Of course, you didn't have the incredible fringe technology there, allowing you to mix and match almost any hairstyle with one of 4 bang styles. Golly, that's 2 more than X and Y. It's crazy to see how far technology has advanced, folks. But hey, what am I complaining for? You unlock a bunch more hairstyles via side quests, just like the hair colors. Of course you don't. You don't unlock any more hairstyles, you silly billies. Game key card. So you're telling me we've got long and wavy, but no just long? If I want long hair, I gotta wave that shit up? You want twin ponytails? Sorry, I thought you said dismembered oinkalone tails. I get that you can't just copy-paste the hairstyles from Scarlet and Violet. This game is working with a different art style that honestly I like a lot more than Scarlet and Violet's, but you could at least use them as a baseline. Heck, there are so many regular NPCs with hairstyles I'd love to use. Not to mention the main NPC's hairstyles. Look at Jacint's hair. Look at LeBon's. Look at regular-ass Marta from the Furfro League. Why the heck can I not even have that? And yes, I get it. There's a couple of the main NPCs in the DLC. They give you their hairstyles, but it's like 5, and honestly, the ones that I was interested in ended up looking like ass anyway, so shit, I'll talk about that when I get to the DLC. As disappointing as the lack of hairstyles are, at least we have the clothing, right? Fashion is a huge part of Colosian culture, with a massive variety of different outfits for different folks. Even in the 3DS games, the very first titles to do character customization, you felt like you had a nice variety. There's more than you think. You'd walk in the store, listen to that grooving background track, and check out what specialties the store has on offer. And of course, now that's just a menu, like every other store in modern Pokemon nowadays. Big surprise, but hey, that was expected, let's be honest. But the clothing, that's the important thing here. Let's talk about the improvements. For one, Now, instead of having all the colors of an item show up on the menu clogging it up, now there's a separate menu you click into to see the color options. Neat. What's also neat is that if you buy an outfit, sometimes it will have extra parts like the shirt or the belt that you can mix and match with other colors of the same piece of clothing. And that's it. I'm going to cut right to the chase. The clothing customization this time around feels extremely disappointing. It was already bad enough with the lack of hairstyles, but it feels really half-assed here. At first you're thinking, oh, there's 30 clothing stores. That's great, so much selection. But then you realize that each of these stores has only like 1 or 2 options for at most a couple of categories. So you go to the next shop and it's the same clothes with different colors. And then you start to realize, oh, hang on, there's actually only a stark couple different options for each category, and they've just scattered them throughout all the different shops around Lumios to make it seem like there's a lot more than there is. The cardigan and shirt sets colors, for example, are scattered throughout 5 different stores, so you're having to run in and out of menus everywhere because you can't remember which store and what versions of which shirts. Or well, the store theme stops and starts because they thought it'd be a good idea to have it only play while you're in the store menu instead of just in the mall as a whole, and then whoops, you zipped out of a menu too fast, and I guess now the game's hard-locked itself. I had to restart the game! Not only that, but a lot of the clothing feels really samey. It's all generic wear shit anybody could put on. There's nothing really interesting to put on. It's all shirt and pants, barring some of the full body outfits. It's the hair problem all over again. NPCs on the street have more interesting clothing than us. It's insane. Everybody is so dripped out, but we're standing here like a model from insert basic clothes line here. And guess what? There are no skirts or dresses in the game, barring one singular skirt and tights combo, and instead they gave us skirts? What the fuck is a skirt? Oh, that's a skirt. Now, there's a few reasons for this to be the case. I've asked several people and received several ideas. One could be that Game Freak was worried about upskirts. After all, you're rolling all around all over Lumios, so it'd be pretty inevitable that the camera would look up your skirt eventually. But then you just add shorts underneath, or like a black void like in Smash Bros. It's not exactly a hard problem to solve. Or 2, as I just mentioned, you're rolling around out there. Maybe the skirts would clip and warp weirdly. For that, I'll say there's other games out there with dodge rolling where you can wear skirts and dresses, and this is the highest grossing blah 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 game keycard. Or 3, because both guy and girl players can wear all the clothing in the game with no restrictions, Game Freak or its old man stockholders, shareholders, higher-ups, whatever have you, might have been worried about cross-dressing. Now, sounds silly, right? Or maybe not. But this isn't something I've pulled out of my ass. Apart from the legging skirt and skort here in ZA, male characters have never actually been able to wear skirts in a Pokemon game. Sun and Moon, gender-locked. Sword and Shield, gender-locked. BDSP, gender-locked. Legends Arceus, suspiciously lacking any sort of dress. Scarlet and Violet, suspiciously lacking any form of customization at all, which leaves us at ZA and Skorts. I think that's pretty telling, but maybe that's just me. I might be overreacting here. It's what I tend to do. They didn't even bring back the bamboo sprig hat. What a horrible time to be a Pokemon fan. At least with Scarlet and Violet, they stamped my hopes into the gutter right at the start of the game and I could move on with my life. Here, they keep stringing you along as if you're about to unlock more options down the line like you do with hair colors or contact lenses. There's even a shop that won't let you in because you're not stylish enough like in the original X and Y, but it has like one suit and it's kind of ass, not gonna lie. Look, I know this isn't the biggest deal to a lot of people. In fact, some people I've talked to about the customization were quite happy with what they were given, but because there's just so much less customizability comparing it not only to previous, even very old Pokemon games alongside any other game that allows customization, I can't see it as anything else than, half-assed. Just because the game is a side game doesn't excuse the lack of content, man. And not when it's the same damn price, or more expensive in this case than the main series games. What a total letdown. You can't even customize your Rotom phone, which is something they could have absolutely copy-pasted from Scarlet and Violet, at least as far as the textures go. Your Rotom phone being in a standoff with others was probably designed to show off the custom cases, but because the feature was probably cut for time, these scenes just feel stupid. God, the one good thing about Rotom phones, and they just couldn't be asked to keep it in. No custom ball throwing either, like in Sun and Moon or Scarlet and Violet DLC, but that's probably because of the way you send your mons out, that is over your shoulder, and not the end of the world, but again, more customization is always a good thing. Alright. That's that for the customization. Let's swing back around to something a little bit more positive. That is the music. Music in Pokemon games is always good, for the most part, and ZA doesn't disappoint much. There are some absolute bangers in here, alongside some forgettable nothing burgers. To start with, Lumios' theme, both day and night, are absolutely stellar. I love both of them to death. But You can't expect me to listen to it for the entire experience, Game Freak. It's just not right. You are stuck in Lumio City for the entire game, and for some reason they didn't think it was necessary to switch up the track every now and again. After the first 5 hours even, it was starting to get a little bit worn out, but then you keep going for another 45. Even the best song in the world can't hold up to that. You've got a lot of Pokemon music under your belt, Game Freak, right? Could have had a Rotom phone jukebox app that goes through different town themes. Even just from X and Y would have worked. Something? Anything? No? Does any other game do this? Are you stuck at Ocarina of Time listening to Hyrule Fields theme the entire experience? I don't think so. What the hell were they thinking? Now, each section of the city has a different accompanying instrument to help, kind of break it up a little bit. Jaune District has a sax. Blue District has a flute. Rouge, a trumpet. Vert, a clarinet. And Magenta, an accordion. Each one of these variations, again, sounds incredible. It's amazing music, but you might not even realize while playing that the instruments are district exclusive. I didn't realize. I thought the track was just varied to keep things interesting. But because it's the same backing track with a different lead each time, it doesn't feel varied enough. Again, it would for like a 5-hour experience, just not a 50 or 60-hour one. It needs a jukebox option, like now. Like yesterday. Well, aside from the incredible theme turned torture experience, there's really not that many other, incredible themes that I noticed in my time playing. Honestly, most of the battle themes are very good at best and forgettable at worst. The regular Battle Royale trainer theme it's fine, suffers the same problem as the overworld theme. You're going to hear this thing start up 6 billion times, mostly right after each other in the battle zones. It's not bad, but it's nothing special. The other regular trainer battle theme that plays for stronger trainers is pretty good, based on the battle track from X and Y. This one's got that spunk I'm looking for in a battle track. We've got Canary's theme. It sucks. I thought she was going to have a banger, but wow, this is some weak sauce, man. It doesn't match her personality at all. They can do better than this. Other characters, I completely forgot about Muscle Man's theme. Yeah, that's some Sonic 4 shit right there. Actually really like Corbeau's theme. Matches his personality and style. It's intimidating, works well. The rival theme is also good, sets out what it wants to do, would rank this one higher than the rest so far. The Wild Battle theme is pretty excellent actually, does the same sort of thing as Scarlet and Violet, seamlessly working its way into the Wild Zone's backing track, good stuff there. Alpha Pokemon have the same sort of deal, just with more drums and an electric guitar thrown in, good stuff. I really do like the Rogue Mega Battle theme as well, starts off very intimidating, and for most parts of it, keeps that going throughout the track, does a good job of making you feel like you're battling something really strong, even if they are pretty dang easy. Zygarde battles you a couple of times throughout the story. I didn't mention it because it's not really important, but he's got 3 different themes, one for each kind of form, with the first one being kind of boring and 50% form ramping it up a bit. I don't know if I talk about the final theme later, but it's the same thing, more energetic. It's a good thing. It's a good legendary theme. Nothing I can remember off the top of my head though. But the last theme I want to talk about before we get to that finale is just synths. Laban unfortunately doesn't get a battle theme of her own, but her master comes out of nowhere with an electro swing slammer! I had been a little underwhelmed by the music in the game up until this point, but Jacinthe knew just what I needed to pull me back in. She stomps on every other battle theme and leaves no survivors. Even Zygarde had to come in and hear it. Look at him, they're all dolled up for his battle competition. Who took this photo? Say cheese, protector of the ecosystem. The best character in the game getting the very best theme is all too perfect. Anyway, let's talk about the shitty finale. Spoiler alert, it might be shitty. So, throughout the story, you've been rising through the ranks in the ZA Battle Royale and met some colorful characters along the way. But in order to get to rank A and secure your one wish alongside doing whatever it is Quasartico wants you to do, it's still a damn mystery at this point, other than, AZ saying at the right time, Floette will decide who the strongest Mega Evolution trainer is, even though it doesn't actually do that later on, and there's been a big competition to decide who's the strongest. What the hell are you talking about, AZ? To get to rank A, you've got to battle a guy called Grisham. He turns out to be one of the people who run the coffee stand we were at earlier in the game that I didn't talk about, because we only went there like twice, and wowee, surprise, surprise, the only two people in the game with orange hair and a coffee logo, which is an altered version of Team Flare's symbol, are actually Team Flare members, the evil team from X and Y. This was extremely obvious to every single person who played the game except me. I didn't realize until now. It's Clive all over again! I think it was the Hisui and Zoro arc here. Like, that's totally intentional, right? Threw me right off the trail. Anyway, they're not really Team Flare, to be honest. They're calling themselves Team Flare Nouveau. Nouveau? I don't know. Which just means the new Team Flare. They're more of an old style, let's make the world a beautiful place for everybody to live in harmony Team Flare, and less of a, the world is ugly and we must eliminate the population to make it beautiful sort of Team Flare, which is what happened to it when Lysander went insano style and started capturing legendaries and activating the genocide weapon that AZ built and whatnot. They also have a wish for Quasartico to grant as well, of course, but in order to explain that wish or something along those lines, they want to show us something, blah, blah, blah. It's really just an excuse to battle, although you do go and see this thing that they want you to see first, although his partner in Nouveau Crime can't wait, battling you with her Mega Pyro. Oh, I'm still so sad. I will say the remix for the Team Flare theme is pretty good. Honestly, in X and Y, it's not exactly a memorable track, but here they give it a bit of zhuzhing up, a bit of flair, so it works well. The two Team Flare Nouveau members show us into Lysander Cafe and into, if you'll remember from X and Y, Team Flare's secret base, Lysander Labs, which is now abandoned, of course, with wild Pokemon running rampant. Hey, wait a second. Hold the phone. Give me a minute. Lysander Cafe has an interior? Wait. So the regular cafes that don't have an interior, they kind of do? If they would just edit this one? What a crazy wild ride it must be over at Game Freak. I have no idea what they're doing and how everything gets put together. It must be a total shit show over there. Anyway, Lysander Labs is that second sort of dungeon-esque interior that I mentioned earlier on, and I think it's the only like old-style dungeon in a Pokemon game since it's Sun and Moon, maybe? I don't remember Sun and Moon having dungeons, really. Small caves, maybe. Not really any dungeons. Maybe since X and Y. Holy shit, we've come full circle. The dungeon itself is nothing insane, nothing complicated. Kind of just go for it until you find the right keycard so you can go back and unlock a door so you can find another keycard to unlock a different door. Also, there's teleporters around if you want some items. But hell, I'll take what I can get at this point. I've spent so much time wishing to throw something different at me, I'm not going to complain. Which is a little sad if you think about it. They've been serving me the same sloppy porridge for 50 straight hours, and getting a glass of water along the side is a fucking marvel! Like with Sycamore's lab, you get to see some of the rooms from X and Y's Lysander Labs remade in 3D. Well, not in 3D and larger 3D. Like AZ's cell, for example, and the machine room, whatever this is called. And I think that's neat. Seeing the big leap between the two games is what made the older remake so special. It was really cool seeing Red and Blue in full color and better graphics. Same goes for Gold and Silver. Ruby and Sapphire was so neat to see in 3D graphics. And then finally, Pokemon made the leap to full camera control, kind of, and life-sized areas in a Pokemon game, and I'll leave the BDSP video for another day. I wrote like a 5-minute hit piece on it in here before I remembered this was a Legend ZA script. What I'm trying to say is that seeing these older areas remade here in ZA has me hoping that we could see X and Y and, you know, all the other Pokemon games remade in the future in a full modern style, not this half-assed top-down slop, not games that take place in one singular city in an entire region, a full, proper remake that these older games deserve, like with Final Fantasy VII and its remakes. Not that I want Pokemon Black and White to be a 3-part series over the course of 20 years, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so in the final room of Lysander Labs, there's a big exposition text dump, and then old man Lysander pops in alongside Zygarde. As I mentioned before, you do occasionally run into both of these guys during the main story, but nothing substantial ever happens aside from the battles against Zygarde, which the first one ends up with you getting an ordinary rock from it upon winning, which I immediately pegged as a Mega Stone, probably for it, which, I mean, have you seen Zygarde's stats? Does it need one? Lysander's here, though, to exposit some more info. When he fired the ultimate weapon back in X and Y, it was presumed he was dead, but Zygarde saved him, actually, alongside all living creatures in the area. Okay, yeah, that's cool, but he was just chilling in a cave the whole time in my game, dude. Probably part of a scrapped Pokemon Z storyline, to be honest. As a result of the blast, I guess, he lost his memory and is piecing everything together. I can't really remember the reason why the ultimate weapon only really blasted itself back in X and Y. Lysander doesn't really know either, but apparently the use of it has awakened a device in Lumiose Tower, which AZ also happened to build, and now it has become a danger and may enter a state similar to Rogue Mega Evolution. What the fuck? They really do throw a lot at you at the end here, or maybe it just feels like a lot because throughout the whole story they threw practically nothing, leaving it all for the last 5 minutes. Lysander says only AZ's Floette can get the tower under control, and also Zygarde will need its full power back because what with the whole X and Y explosion fiasco, its cells was scattered all around and lost most of its power. Also, it does that. It's made of cells. That's its thing. Weirdly enough, you don't ever actually obtain any cells throughout the story. You don't have to collect any or find any in a cutscene aside from the very first one, I suppose, where it jumps in your bag. Zygarde just sort of does it itself throughout the game. You don't gotta do jack shit. I really thought that'd be part of the game, finding the cells and completing Zygarde. Maybe with some sort of cell radar, like in Sonic Adventure's treasure hunting segments, except it's all one level and you can't collide and there's 100 of them. Okay, I understand why they didn't do this, maybe. Didn't stop me from collecting the 100 canary bolts, though, and those don't have a radar. Literal hours of combing through Lumiose, and I thought I was gonna get some awesome reward, but all you get is a shitty plush in your room. I thought I was gonna get, like, another buff to all my stats. Why this? Now, Team Flare Nouveau's reason for all this hubbubaloo was so that you'd know the evil of AZ, which, I mean, the man built 2 genocide machines. I can understand where they're coming from, really. And even though AZ is not the man he used to be, 3,000 years of self-reflection will do that to you, they want to be the ones to get to rank A, the ones to stop the tower, and the ones to make AZ pay for his crimes. There's gotta be like a statute of limitations on that, right? Like if Hitler was alive 3,000 years in the future, could he like still be charged? Or Grisham battles us now. We're having Mega Charizard X, poor Mega Charizard Y still being absolutely shafted. He's even orange like Team Flare. What total favoritism? Anyway, Headsmack, what do you think you're doing there, pal? Now it's AZ's turn to tell the story, and he recounts how during a great Pokemon war, his beloved Floette was sent to the front lines perishing, as you would expect, because who the heck is sending a fairy with a flower to the front lines? Tyranitar? Sure. Primeape? Absolutely. Blastoise? Go for it. But Floette? Who else was on the front lines? Igglybuff? Anyway, AZ was pissed and made a machine that sucked the life out of a bunch of Pokemon to bring Floette back to life. Actually gave it eternal life in the process, and I think himself as well somehow. But even though he got Floette back, AZ was still super pissed, so altered the life sucker machine into the ultimate weapon and wiped out a lot of Pokemon and people. A lot. And so between the whole brought back via mass death thing and the ultimate weapon sort of kind of doing a genocide, Floette left AZ, which I think was also kind of warranted. The man was unstable, to say the least. Many years later, a man came to AZ with a proposition to create a device to keep Lumiose safe, which turned into Ange, a chair device thing in Lumiose Tower, which protects the city by... I don't know. They didn't explain it all that well. AZ says it was his attempt to use the eternal life he granted Floette and himself for good to try to atone for his misdeeds, I'll call them. But he just made another weapon? Is that what Ange is? Either way, it got all frazzled when the ultimate weapon fired back in X and Y, and again, is on the verge of destroying all of Lumiose. And also, apparently, Floette can Mega Evolve? Ain't that something? Anyway, to celebrate getting to rank A, the gang has a lovely dinner. Oh my fucking god, make something else. I got to rank A for crying out loud. Give me a hamburger, something! Urbane also got to rank A, apparently. We never see him battle anybody in rank B or even know anybody else at that rank, but hey, he says he did it, so that's that. In fact, I think the only time we ever actually see him battle anybody is against us, obviously, where he loses, of course, against Quasartico's Vinny, when we both get bumped to rank F, and when he partakes in Jacinth's tourney, where he loses immediately and has to set out for the whole thing. What a spectacular trainer! Of course, it's not long before the prison tower, or Ange, starts going cuckoo banana puffs, so AZ tells us we've got a Mega Evolve Floette at the tower so she can take on the power of Ange, whatever that means, and then the tower will take on its true form, Ange Floette. Then the Zygarde cell that came with us at the beginning of the game jumps at us and the cutscene ends too early. We get like 3 frames before the scene starts fading out. Also, my Mega Bracelet sticks in the frame for a bit before the cutscene ends. I could have gone through all the cutscenes to look for shit like this, but I absolutely positively cannot be asked this time. I cannot handle more of that. Anyway, so the tower's about to explode and Game Freak thought, hey, you know what music would be good here? The regular Lumiose theme. Yeah, this feels right. Well done, guys. As AC said before, Floette will choose the strongest Mega Evolution trainer or will just battle for it because that's apparently how things work now. Urbane gets a new remix of the rival theme for this battle, which is pretty neat, but holy moly does this whole thing fall sort of flat. They keep cutting to him after each Pokemon you knock out, and he's just not an interesting character, man. I don't know how many times I need to say it, and the one thing that could have made him more interesting, his storyline about who he's looking for in Lumiose, hey, remember that? Still hasn't gone anywhere! He even points it out mid-battle, what the fuck? He does have one new trick up his sleeve, that being Mega Embor, but by crikey, what a bore! What a bore, because Embor. Anyway, head smash. And so, the winner of the final battle to see who the best Mega Evolution trainer, where I didn't even Mega Evolve, is me. And so, Mega Floette and I. Oh, come on! That's right! Even though I won fair and square, Urbane really wants to be the one to save everybody, so he gets to do it. And in a stunningly different looking cutscene, too. Is that real pink lighting? You can't, I don't, why are they doing this? You know what, I'll voice it myself! I'm the Frenchman, oui, baguette spaghetti! But yeah, Floette Mega Evolves looking, well, I don't really know what I was expecting here, but I suppose they'd want to keep Floette looking pretty similar so the audience can still recognize it at a glance, but it's fine, I guess. A big flower Floette makes sense, nothing crazy. Floette takes Urbane up to the tippy top of the tower and the Ange device, and he activates the device, and I guess that lets Floette absorb the Mega Energy in the tower, but not really, because from Floette, huge vines shoot out and transform the tower into, I think, Ange Floette. Is that what they were calling it? Is this Ange Floette? I don't understand. Was this intentional? And would you look at that? The giant Tower of Destruction has obliterated the construction and the whole area around it, spreading its tendrils to all parts of the cities, destroying all in its path. Except it hasn't, because that would mean creating models of destroyed buildings, so really all the tower actually did was fling some construction stuff around the place to conveniently block areas where there were no buildings at all, because it's oh so considerate. Shit, man, Sonic Adventure for the Dreamcast destroyed an entire city, and you're telling me the richest multimedia franchise in the world can't blast open a couple buildings? Oh yeah, let's spend thousands on CG cutscenes of Mega Victory Bell to advertise the game, but let's put none of that money in the actual game! What a fucking tragedy this finale is, man. The idea is solid enough, you know, let's have the only thing to actually happen in the game as the finale, where you team up with all the kooky characters you've met so far in the story so they can help you, the actual strongest Mega Evolution trainer, get to Zygarde so you can take down Ange Floette together. But as you can probably expect at this point, the execution of this blows more chunks than me after a single shot of vodka. Naveen and Dancing Queen? They don't do anything here. Well, they don't do anything throughout the story either, really, so that's not really surprising. So you leave them at the start of the rubble and make your way through the city, fending off rogue Mega Evolution Pokemon with your silly acquaintances along the way. Now, these battles are pretty hectic. They do their job decently enough, even if when the Mega Pokemon faint, they just kind of shrink down into nothingness. But everything else just feels like it was flung together at the last minute. Wow, it's a running theme! Look at this rubble-ish scaffolding. Does this look unpassable to you? It does to the characters, apparently, who decide using a Pokemon to demolish a giant pile of it in the river to create an extremely health hazardous bridge is a better idea than just demolishing the tiny pile in the way? Why can't I just jump in the river and swim over? Oh right, because the game was made in 4 days and you can't even try to get in the water. Legends Arceus has this, man! Even if you couldn't swim, at least the feature was there. Wait, you could swim! There were mounts! Do you like the super cool animation of the scaffolding rubble being destroyed, by the way? Ah yes, the classic Pokemon animation strategy. Don't. I remember back in Sonic Adventure 2 when Eggman blows up the moon, it was the exact same thing. Each acquaintance after Muscle Guy also have something to do aside from the world's worst fist bumps where everybody involved just holds their hands together like a pack of freaks. These activities vary in, I don't know, video game creativeness. The construction guy Tarragon and his team make a giant scaffolding course, probably the most interesting thing here. Canary exists. The lesbian couple created Jacynth Zone to contain more of those rogue Mega Pokemon, even though I feel like they could have probably made one without trapping themselves in it too. Actually, the Rust Syndicate did the best thing, making a human ladder you can actually climb up instead of what I expected Game Freak to do, which was fade in and out again. But no, it's a genuinely funny moment, even if Garten of Banban did it first. And kind of better. Wow. That's really very sad. Kubo falls backwards off the roof, which I thought for a second that friggin' killed him. It's turning around, no, he's fine. Apparently you can jump off the roof and make him do the ladder again a few more times, but after a while they block you with some invisible wall. That's the kind of stuff I want to see in a Pokemon game, not the invisible wall. Just some real honest-to-goodness goofiness. Just with more effort, more money and time, I guess I should say. Me, I expected the invisible wall immediately. I didn't even try jumping off. I mean, like, look, 5 seconds later I hit an invisible wall anyway. There's nothing even there. Like, they're not even trying. Because this whole finale is treated as a secondary instance, you know, like, of this city, like it's probably a separate map. There's a lot of stuff missing. There's no items, no NPCs, no Pokemon other than the scripted Mega Evolutions. The wild zones are gone. It makes the city feel dead, which maybe that's what they were going for, but then maybe they should have actually shown some destruction. A bit of scaffolding isn't quite the same as actual rubble, guys. Team Flare, but not really, are here too, but they do even less than everybody else, so it doesn't really matter. But Zygarde transforms using all of its cells into Zygarde Complete, and together we rush towards Angefloet to... Oh, he leaves. He's turned into a little green light. I make my way towards the tower, battling 2 big flowers it puts up in defense. Anyway, hit smash. I suppose that makes sense. The battle against the flowers is easy, but that's just the beginning, folks. Zygarde comes down to check on us before soaring back up again, and now we're playing as Zygarde. Well, we can pick a move for him to do. It doesn't really matter which one really doesn't affect anything. The tower is weakened a bit, but it's not enough. It sends out a meteor shower of power while Zygarde puts up a shield to protect us, and now it's finally time to rescue Floette and Urbane from the tower. Oh, the flowers are back. They want me to fight the flowers again. Okay, I've got time. Battling against the flowers the second time is still pretty easy because I have a single Pokemon with an HP draining move, but that's okay. We get to listen to this epic track. It's okay. It's really very just fine. The flowers are down for the count for the second time, and Zygarde comes down in the exact same way to do the exact same thing as last time, except this time he bugs out and falls back down to the ground. And Angefloet is looking weak after that big hit. It's finally time to get up close and climb the building. What the fuck is going on? Maybe Hit Smash will work this time. The flowers do the same thing they've been doing. Isn't that great? It's like if Soda sent out 6 iron moths. What is happening? The flowers go down again! And Zygarde, well, you know the drill, but now we can use the move Core Enforcer. Wow, does this look cool. I wish I was the one doing it. And with that, the tower seizes movement. Wait, what? 6 flowers in a cutscene? I thought for sure we'd just scale the tower and battle rogue manifestations of Mega Pokemon or something. Anything? That can't be it. And it's not! Angefloet whirls to life again, charging up a giant light of ruin, ready to destroy anything and everything, just like the ultimate weapon did all those years ago. But we aren't done either. And because Scarlet and Violet had us go through the menus, EA's gotta do it too, I guess, and we select the Pebble Zygarde gave us earlier because it's actually a Mega Stone, because duh, even I saw that coming and I didn't even know Clive was Clavel. Zygarde Mega evolves, transforming into a huge cannon-esque creature itself. Honestly, a neat design, very epic source. And as the light of ruin approaches Lumiose, Zygarde readies its cannon and opens fire with Nile Light, blasting away the tower's last attempt at self-destruction. Urbane is fine, apparently. He just jumps down, I guess. Never explained. Wait, hang on. That was it? That was the big climax? 6 flowers and 2 cutscenes? What a colossal letdown! No going up the tower, no boss fight against a distorted, mega-evolved Angefloet throne while Urbane is stuck inside. Just the same 2 flowers 3 times and a couple of what are essentially menu options? Tower wasn't even really big enough to have you go up it in the first place, now that I think about it. They shrunk the tower, man. There's no way the gym from X and Y would fit in there to start with. Why did they make it so small? While the rest of the game feels pretty lackluster and low scope, seemingly intentionally, this final boss feels lackluster and low scope a little less intentionally. Refighting the same 2 flowers and then a couple of cutscenes in lieu of having a real battle with Angefloet feels really, really bad. And I wasn't expecting much from Game Freak, I never do, but this was pure ass. Anyway, we have one final cutscene where nobody speaks, even though it looks and sounds like everybody should, including AZ, and credits roll. Don't give me lovely music that makes me crazy, yeah? You disappointed me! I can see what they were trying to do. The game honestly had a really interesting premise, but when you're working with the Pokemon Company, Game Freak, oftentimes ideas and priorities get shifted to make way for profit and rushed releases. We saw it as early as X and Y with that game feeling really underbaked, and it's permeated throughout the entire franchise ever since. Just look at the Terra League, man. So many ideas and plans thrown out the window because of well, I mean, I can't say for sure, but I'm assuming time and money restrictions, which I feel like the highest grossing multimedia franchise in the world should not really be having problems with. Even just comparing the game to lesser studios with far less money, with far less experience, what we ended up with here in ZA, while being fun to an extent, was really let down by either time constraints, budgetary restrictions, or even just scope restrictions in general, maybe. I don't know. Maybe the higher-ups didn't want the ending to be too good, because then they'd have to actually follow it up with something decent in the next game. I just want a game with some effort, man. I love Pokemon. I want to make that so clear. I've been playing Pokemon since I was a kid. I'm not saying the original games were perfect. They're not by a long shot, but while I'm watching other franchises evolve and get better and better, Pokemon remains stunted and lacking any meaningful growth, because when they take one step forward, they always take several back. Even here in ZA, it's very, very clear. The step forward, the new battle system. The steps back, no mounts, no abilities, no real story until the final half hour, no region. You get one city and everything looks the goddamn same no matter where you go. It's heartbreaking. I love Pokemon so much. I don't go making 8-hour reviews for series I don't love, right? It's the passion for the series that drives me to critique it so. I'm not out here making 4-hour videos on, I don't know, Halo, Assassin's Creed. I love Pokemon. I love Pokemon designs, I love Pokemon music and characters and the Pokemon world, so of course I'm gonna have at least a modicum of fun in the new Pokemon game, right? I had fun with Scarlet and Violet the first time I played it, but that doesn't mean it deserved to be released in the state it was, and still is. I might love Pokemon so much, but the Pokemon Company doesn't want my love. It wants my money. That's all they really care about. And no shit, right? Every company just wants your money. But at least the other companies try not to make it so transparently obvious. Anyway, post-credits scene time. Everyone meets up to... Wait, what is this? AZ's dead? He died off screen? Well, everybody decides to head home and have a feed. Naveen, I get it, man. I get it. We're not done yet, of course, as there is actually a bit of post-game stuff along with the DLC, of course, which I will go over in about 3 minutes. You have to wait 3 minutes to hear me talk about... Anyway, after waking up, it seems that before he died, AZ scribbled a note onto the palm of our hand while we weren't looking, mentioning his Lucario, the very same Lucario that we used to battle our first rogue Mega Pokemon that I never mentioned, because it happened right after that Zygarde cutscene where he brings us to the roof, and that was the main thing there that I was focusing on. Anyway, he wants us to have it, and yeah, he's dead, so that's the reason. Funnily enough, this is a Lucario given to him by Karina, the same girl you get one from in X and Y. She's got a fucking Lucario breeding farm out back, I guess. We've also got a final meeting with Quizartico to reveal the final wild zone in Lumiose, that being where Prism Tower stands, which is a spot that you can catch other starters now, so that's cool. But they also ask both Urbane and I what we'd like as our special wish for getting to rank A, and well, this is Pokemon. They don't program different responses for different dialogue options. They sure as hell ain't gonna program results for different wishes here. No matter what you want, the Infinite ZA Battle Royale is what you get, essentially acting as a way to grind special rewards like bottle caps and special Pokeballs if you're lucky. Usually you don't get anything too special. Now, there are a few things to do now that the game's complete. For one, there's a few quests to catch, both Yveltal and Xerneas, which both pop up in Lumiose because, really. And they're looking really nice for a 3DS model. I genuinely think that's the 3DS model. Once you catch both of those, you get the opportunity to battle Lysander, who has a somber remix of his original theme, which is great. He still has his Mega Gyarados, which just loves to attack before you can even press a button. Wonderful mechanic, Game Freak. And after that, you get to battle Zygarde. It feels more like a real final boss, but even then, it's in the same sort of circular arena as all the other rogue Mega Pokemon. Well, at least it's green, right? Zygarde has 3 phases, and you have to beat each one, dog, snake, and man, one after the other. I actually lost here for the first time in the game because I wasn't ready for the pulsing move from the outside of the arena that makes its way in, a bit of a cheap move, but I was ready for it next time, although I didn't reattempt it immediately because the fight takes like, I don't think it was too long. I think it was might have been like 7 minutes. I don't know. That it was enough to the point where I felt fatigued and I didn't want to reattempt it. Funnily enough, Zygarde's the only character in the game that knows actually how to fist bump, and he's a dog. Lysander just casually drops that he's he's gonna live another 3,000 years, which I'm not sure if he mentioned before, but good luck with that, bro. See you in Legends Cure him. And there are a few extra side missions that were added later on as free updates, like the Mewtwo mission and Diancie mission, which I spent about an hour attempting to catch in a love ball. Look at it, I did it, praise me. But the main draw of the post-game is the missions that come by grinding through that same old battle royale. I didn't think the game was too grindy during the main story, but after this experience, I no longer think that. Just wait till we get to the DLC! To be honest, blasting through random trains with your overpowered Pokemon at this point in order to grind out points in order to progress the post-game story is pretty mind-numbing. It's the same old shtick without any new bells or whistles, so it gets boring pretty darn quickly, and they expect you to grind it out 15 times before giving you your tiny little morsel of story. I thought the game was done. I did not expect to have to bang my head against the wall for that long. For your 15th Infinite Royale match, you fight Urbane, who now uses Mega Floette on his team. Seeing as AZ is no longer around, he can force the 3,000-year-old fairy to cockfight, I guess. But then after that, they finally get around to finishing up Urbane's quest to find that certain someone that he was looking for, and it's the most underwhelming shit you can imagine. Emma essentially rocks up, tells Urbane that Jet of Quasartico is his grandma, then Jet says, "Isn't that lovely?" and then appoints Urbane as the new CEO of Quasartico Inc. What the fuck? Damn, dude, why even have this storyline in the first place? What a nothing burger. Apparently at 20 battles, I think Jacinth invites you to another little quest, and you can unlock the Jacinth-only tourney, where you fight against Jacinth and Jacinth only for as long as you can with no breaks, which is kind of funny, but at this point in the game, I was in no way gonna touch the Infinite Royale again. I might as well have been looking at a loading bar instead. That's how bland it got by the 15th night. But I really did want to fully complete the game, just like I did in Scarlet and Violet, so I did spend quite a bit of time finishing up the Pokédex, which I thought by that point I'd have finished up Mabel's missions too, but apparently in order to get the shiny charm and complete all the missions, Mabel wants you to have battled over 1,000 trainers! Hell's bells, that ain't happening! Game key card! But hey, actually, funnily enough, they added more missions to the DLC, so if you don't want to waste countless hours listening to the same theme restart over and over again until the heat death of the universe while one-shotting Pokemon, just cough up that cash, I guess. And I suppose, whoops, looks like I've mentioned it one too many times, and now I'm contractually obligated to talk about the DLC. It's... oh my god, it's fine. It sure is more Legends EA. It starts off simple enough. You meet a little girl on the roof of the ZA hotel, that's not creepy at all, who I figured was Diantha's kid as I picked up on her having Diantha's champion theme as her background track almost immediately, and yet the face of Clive is a mystery wrapped in a vortex of lies and deception. She wants to make donuts for her little friend Hooper, which she has because she found it, and that's pretty much all they explain there. So, to make donuts, you need butter. And where do you get butter? That's right, Dendermill Town, a classic little area from X and Y. Just kidding, it's Lumiose. What a surprise. If you expected anything different, I don't know what to tell you. And on the way, of course, to getting this butter, you run into the same old kooky characters from the main story and battle them, of course, because the first 4 times battling the same team wasn't enough. But hey, check it out! Double battles! That's a new focus of the DLC. Now, oftentimes, you'll team up with a character and battle, the same characters you've been battling the whole game, because God forbid they add more than one new trainer to the $50 DLC. But that's cool! This is cool! That's what we've been waiting for! Well, I mean, it's what I was asking for, at least. A proper double battle system so I could play online teamed up with a friend. Except they didn't do that. They just added in a bunch of these double battles for the DLC story. Well, you know what they say. Don't expect anything and you'll never be disappointed. Anyway, hit smash. The little girl Ansha, as she's named, is here in Lumiose for reasons I can't be bothered to remember, but it is her that is the anchor point for which this story could not be told without. With said butter, as I said, she creates donuts for Hooper so it can do its damn job. Actually, the donut making stuff is the only real thing in the game with any actual flair to it. Pokemon recently has been feeling super sterile and bland, and this menu and its little cutscenes, its donuts, they don't for the most part. I like it. And, I wish this effort could have been placed elsewhere in the game as well. It's like a shot of melatonin every time I open these boring-ass memes. But what is Hooper's job anyway? Well, it's to send you to hyperspace, of course. What's hyperspace? Well, it's the next step up from superspace. No, apparently this is all thanks to that mega evolution energy that the game's so keen on making the problem of every situation so far. This time, though, they don't just say, oh, it's mega evolution energy and leave it at that. No, this time there's a real explanation, which is also the result of the mega evolution energy. But hey, it's something. It's different, so we'll get to it. Blotches of hyperspace all around Lumios allow you and the gang, sorry, just you. Imagine if somebody else did anything. Then again, maybe that's for the best if they're gonna be just as bad as the Pokemon at following you. Anyhow, they allow you specifically, with the help of Hooper's donut-powered powers, to enter a dream-esque alternate Lumios, sporting its very own dream Pokemon. I feel kind of weird about them. Technically, they just kind of popped into existence, but for all intents and purposes, they are proper Pokemon, including the Rayquaza that Archer seems so sweet on. That's her thing. But hey, we can't have splotches splapping all over the place. They're letting all these non-Kalos Pokemon in. We gotta close those portals. Did Pokemon make an allegory for illegal immigrants? A crack squad of Team ZA, the Rust Syndicate, oh, that's it, are the ones in charge of putting a stop to the globs of doom. And while that's cool, I do like Corbo, I don't really like him here. He kind of loses everything that made him interesting in the main story, at least personality-wise. Maybe it's just him opening up a bit and becoming less standoffish, but I can't help but feel like they kind of flubbed the writing with him in this one. Corbo brings in some help for Team MZ, the Mega Evolution expert Karina from X and Y. They also bring in nobody, because the DLC had to be out a month after release, and new models take a little bit of effort, so. The DLC follows a very rigid structure, essentially being the Z to A Royale point grinding over and over again. You get a mission from Philippa or Corbo, that always being get points. You hand over berries to Archer to create donuts. The better they are, the better the buffs, then the longer you can stay in hyperspace. And then you go to hyperspace, either to battle trainers a la Battlezone or to catch Pokemon a la Wild Area. These hyperspace zones are just that, zones. It's not the entirety of Lumios as I once thought. Instead, it's more like little pockets of specific areas that the painters forgot to finish. In order to get points here, you have to follow the missions they give you, which is fine, that's what I expected. But unlike in the battle zones, here in hyperspace, there are no cards. You just kind of get what you're given, and what you're given is usually pretty simple, even bland, I want to say. Catch Pokemon, battle Pokemon, destroy environmental obstacles, break open floating Pokeballs. Heck, in the battle zones, you don't even get a variety. They're all just defeat a certain amount of trainers. Once you've gone to enough hyperspace zones and racked up enough points, you'll generally be funneled towards a rogue mega hyperspace boss battle, which are pretty much exactly the same as the regular rogue mega boss battles, just with a different backdrop. Once that's done, you find some butter. For some reason, I guess they had to shove it in somewhere, but like after a boss like, could they not have gotten new butter in from overseas or something in Lumios? They had to make it part of the rogue hypers. There's been no mention of any other sort of culinary food. I don't get. It's so weirdly placed. It's not like the end of the world. It's not something that took me out of the experience, because God forbid I actually get invested, but it's anyway, so you upgrade your donuts with their butter, and so with that you can go to more difficult hyperspace zones, and you rinse and repeat that until the credits roll. And then you keep going, because that's only like part of the DLC. Apparently there's more to do after that. The setup it's okay. It's definitely not the worst setup I've ever seen, certainly not the best. It's not breaking new ground here, but the new Megas and returning Pokemon were enough for me, as a longtime Pokemon player, to see it to completion, alongside the plan to review it, of course. But just talking about the DLC as like a whole package really isn't getting into enough detail, and as you know, I do like to go into depth, usually exposing for myself the issues as I go through, becoming more and more despondent and disillusioned with the product, eventually ending up as a big bundle of aggressive nerves quivering on the ground. So let's start off with the hyperspace stuff, because that's kind of all there is, looking at it. Well, there are some more side quests too, but for the majority of the DLC, hyperspace is pretty much where you're gonna be most of the time, you know, running around the same I want to say 5 or 6 little slices of Lumiose, battling trainers, catching Pokemon, and smashing Pokeballs. With the trainer hyperspace zones, as I said, they're very similar to the Infinite Royale battle zone, so you'll feel right at home. However, as I said, there's no more variable missions, but on the plus side, no more victory screen holding you hostage after each battle. That's nice, and you do get some neat rewards from certain trainers too, like rare Pokeballs or bottle caps. That's neat. One change I'm not sure if I like or not is the hyperspace timer still going down while you're battling. I suppose it doesn't really matter all that much later on when you can get the timer pretty high, but earlier on it does feel a bit restrictive when you compare it to the regular Infinite Royale mode. But hey, I mean, it does stop you from, being stuck battling for 7 hours. As somebody got to like 100 trainers in the regular Royale, how do you do that? The other hyperspace zones, the wild zone ones, have a small variety of Pokemon, and I mean small, it's like 3 the majority of the time, and they hang around in groups. These Pokemon you'll catch at first because you want to complete the Dex, of course, which has its own little hyperspace tab, but later on, and hours deep into grinding those points, you'll only be catching them to complete the missions. As you might have guessed, no updates were made to the box system, meaning the problem of unorganized fodder springs forth with gusto and unadulterated lack of grace, so get ready to enjoy Pokemon Sword and Release Simulator, because that's half the game at this point. And of course, they couldn't just make releasing all these Pokemon annoying, they had to make catching them annoying too. Oftentimes you'll get a mission to catch Pokemon without them noticing you, which is made really annoyingly difficult sometimes due to the hyperspace zones just being blank, empty streets, and all the Pokemon hang out in big groups, and if one spots you, it's not long before they all do. Like, look at some of these areas! There's nothing to hide behind! There's only a few of these areas in the game in the first place. Why not give them, level design that complements the gameplay? God damn it, this is just the sewers again! You don't even desaturate the colors like the other hyperspace zones! What is this? I'm starting to sound like the nostalgia critic! Hey, welcome to Signland, where you're not allowed to target anyone, but they can target you! Smashing the floating Pokeballs, however, is another story. You get XP candies and hyperspace berries from them, and if you finish all the missions in a hyperspace zone, a big gold Pokeball will appear, which gives you a bunch more berries. You use berries to make Ansh's donuts, with the certain berries giving more calories, which leads to more time and, levels and boosts, so you have to strategize and use up only what you think is necessary in order to complete a hyperspace stage and get that golden Pokeball alongside the rest of the random Pokeballs scattered about. It's quite a satisfying loop, if I'm gonna be honest here. And yes, I did say the donuts give you a level boost, as in order to compete with the over level 100 Pokemon in hyperspace, you'll need a temporary hand up. The Pokemon from hyperspace don't stay the levels you find them at, of course, but you get a ton of XP candies, as I said, from the Pokeballs, so that's not really an issue. After you catch it, you can just level it right up to level 100. What is an issue, however, is the pathing in these zones. Now, Base EA had a few issues with pathing occasionally. Your Pokemon might not fit through a door or something that it doesn't realize it's too big for, stuff like that. But the hyperspace zones are filled to the brim with the most infuriating, hair-pulling, dog shit pathing I think I've ever seen. You'll ask a Pokemon to hit a Pokeball directly in front of you and it'll fly to fucking China. It's awful. And it's constant. It starts feeling like they didn't even test this shit, which wouldn't surprise me. This is the Pokemon Company, but holy crap! This is taking the piss! It'd be one thing if this was just like in the overworld with some stupid environmental objects, but the game loop here is using limited consumable items from hyperspace to enter hyperspace under a time limit in order to gather more of those limited resources, and I'm standing here waiting for Staraptor to stop tweaking out and hit the damn ball! In other reviews like Scarlet and Violet, I'd make a claim like, oh, the game lags, it has slowdown. And there's always one little bitch in the comment section saying, ooh, I never had that issue when I played the game on release. And it's like, it's not a bug, dude. If you played the game, it happened to you, you stupid bastard. But here, if you've played the DLC, I know you've targeted it onto a Pokeball and your mom decided at that specific moment to cross-country back to the Kanto region. Maybe you can relate with this. For me, there's definitely been at least a few times where I'll hear a Pokeball or heck, even the Golden Ball shining away close by, and I've got just a few seconds left. I find it, I order my Pokemon to attack it, but oh, it's just too late, out of time, bad luck. And that feels bad, course it does. But now imagine you had plenty of time, but you still ran out because your Pokemon was dropped on their head as a baby!
Garchomp, buddy, not out here, man. Keep that shit in hyperspace.
If there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, it's that the pathing might as well have been coded by a 10-piece McNuggets. Take a page from another game, Pokemon. Even Sonic Forces knows how to get a character from A to B. It's called a straight fucking line, dipshits! He's in the wall! Problems like this even follow you into the flat fuck floor circular arena boss fights too. Although there it's really more of a lock-on selection issue than it is a pathing one, I suppose. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about those boss fights, huh? Once you've got enough hyperspace points, you'll be directed to a special splat somewhere in Lumios, and together alongside Karina and Urbane, he's here. There's no forgetting someone like you, Urbane. Is this a different Urbane I haven't met, or the most he does during the story is create a new dish, and it's just the croissant curry again? I'm gonna lose it! But I mean, at least he gets that. Naveen and Dancing Queen are basically put on a milk carton from 5 minutes onwards. Anyway, in these hyperspace boss splats, you'll find new Mega Evolutions. That's really what we're here for, right? The new designs, that's the selling point, that's what they know we love. And thankfully, there are a fair few new ones here. 17 of them, actually. 19 if you include Excalibur and the unreleased Mega Garchomp Z, at least of this script. It's probably out by now, but let's go through them, huh? Starting with Mega Absol Z. Absol, of course, was the first rogue boss fight in the main story, so it's interesting they decided to do it again for the DLC, but this time they show us it can't just be our angle, it can also be our devil. Sporting a brand new clawed protrusion out of its back, our one-winged devil certainly looks the part, and now it's even ghost type, which leads me to think of inspirations such as the Grim Reaper, perhaps? The Pokédex does state it kills its foes in a single blow's of kindness, so I think that's probably what we're dealing with here. As a design, it's cool. Nothing I wouldn't expect from a fan favorite. The 3 Pokemon that did get Z forms are all extremely popular after all, so they're not going to do something wacky and experimental like with some other Mega forms. It's cool, but not one of my favorites. Speaking of Z Megas, Mega Lucario Z, Karina's Mega of choice, is also pretty much following that logic. It's like the more graceful sibling of the Mega Lucario twins. The regular Mega Lucario was rough and tough, and Z is a Vocaloid fan. It's good, but it didn't wow me. One that did wow me, however, was Mega Staraptor. I love Staraptor. Starly is my favorite Route 1 bird, and Staraptor, I'm sure, made it into nearly each and every one of your teams in Pearl, Diamond, and Platinum, even if that was only because they barely give you anything good at the start of the game. Thanks for the Geodude, Onix, Aber, and Marchop, Game Freak. Can't wait to evolve them!
Why does it look like he's trying to hit on me?
Mega Staraptor's design takes pretty obvious inspiration from what I can only really describe as like an experienced and toughened pit fighter with that Japanese delinquent hair, maybe. I don't know exactly what I'm trying to describe. You'll have to talk to Loxton Noggin about that. I'm sure he'll have some knowledge on the subject, but like it's even got feathers that look like a cape. Like I swear fighters somewhere have capes. Either way, love the design. The typing being finally changed to fighting flying instead of the normal flying is a great touch. Love it. Mega Meowstic, I was surprised to see because I've been using one my whole adventure, never really expecting anything for it. However, my hopes were expertly dashed when I realized Game Freak was still doing the old 1-2, that is, giving 2 different Pokemon one form, like with Appleton and Flapple back in Sword and Shield. And now here in ZA, both Meowstics have the same Mega. And I don't really like it. Even pushing, like, aside the small distaste I feel from both of them getting the same Mega, that would be fine if I thought the design was cool. But I just don't think the design is all that great. The weird emo hair, the long proportions, the one of each tail, it just looks a bit off. But that's not really the big issue I have with it. I just find it kind of boring. It also doesn't help that this is the fight with the janky target selection too, so that doesn't help you trying to get this big wall, and you have to hit the wall, but if you stand too close to it, the targeting reticle thing doesn't come up, so you can't hit it, and then you die, and then the game is like, oh, would you like to play from the middle, or would you like to make it easier? And you're like, no, I don't want to make it easy, that was the thing, and then you're like, okay, no, I don't want to waste time, I'm just going to start from the middle, because fuck this, man. Mega Glamora is a thing that happened. Certainly didn't expect that one. I guess Geeta had a plan after all. She just lost the Mega Stone right before the championship battle. They pumped it up with special attack and speed steroids, so now it outspeeds Mega Charizard. By 1 point, it puts it on the same ground as Dedenne, watch out. Didn't want to piss on the popularity sponge Garchomp, though. He's sitting steady at 102. Much like my blood pressure. As for its design, I don't know about the floating petals. That's a little bit weird. I'd like to understand the inspiration there if any exists, but I do like the extended ass nose. That's funny and relatable to me specifically. Just keep in mind, ladies, the larger the nose, the bigger the knowledge on Pokemon. Mega Heatran is... I love Mega Heatran, probably my favorite out of this batch, just beating out Staraptor by a little bit. This is the creativity I want to see. They have breathed new life into this Pokemon that everybody just sort of doesn't think about anymore, and now, I think he just looks splendid. Melting away there so hot the metals are dripping off of him. His jaw is completely melted away, leaving a gaping maw as a result, of leaving it looking freaky as well as cool. The only thing I don't like about this form is the artwork of it. You just traced over the model. He doesn't deserve that kind of treatment. Let's talk about Mega Raichu next. It's a bit of a weird one. Or two, because it got two, and it's about time to be honest, and yeah, they're both neat designs. I like them. I think Raichu X is neat and Raichu Y is cute, but man, did they have to do my boy so dirty? Raichu was already dwarfed by his pre-evolution Pikachu, as if I even have to say that, but then you finally give him a Mega Evolution to call his own and you just make him look like Pikachu again? That's fucking cruel, man! But, you know, looking at them in a vacuum, yeah, I like them. Raichu Y is honestly my favorite out of the two designs, even with the whole Pikachu thing, so I'm being a bit of a hypocrite, but I like the colors and proportions a bit more. Raichu X looks just a bit weird with its giant paws and bright banana yellow body with the ketchup cheeks. He just looks kind of bald in comparison to Raichu Y, but I think it's just the colors and the bottom-heavy design doing that, though, especially in the artwork, as regular Raichu only looks slightly bald in comparison. And hey, to be fair, the shinies of these two inverting the colors back, so the Pikachu proportions Raichu is colored like a Pikachu and the Raichu proportioned Raichu is colored like a Raichu, it does help a lot, mostly just in X's case. As I said, I think the orange and white looks fantastic. It's super easy to get a shiny too here. We just head over to that tower in Wild Zone 3, I think it is, and go in and out to your heart's content until you find one. And hey, and maybe they'll come out with a Mega Raichu Z one day and complete the trifecta. Really give Raichu a design of his own instead of, you know, piggybacking off of Pikachu. Gorochu, anyone? Honestly, I'm surprised they didn't just pull a Floette and give you a special Mega Evolving Pikachu. Wouldn't put it past them. Mega Garchomp Z, as I said at the time of this recording, I have not had the chance to use one, so you'll have to forgive me for whatever footage I managed to slap together. And it's, well, it's the second Garchomp Mega, that's for sure. Boy howdy, this is, not great. It kind of feels like a first pass for regular Mega Garchomp that we were never meant to see. I guess they weren't happy with the lack of competitive play Mega Garchomp was seeing due to its lack of speed, so just cranked that shit up to 150 and... what the fuck? They made it a special attacker? What the hell about this Pokemon screams special attacker? And they removed the ground typing. This is just worse overall. I feel like they must give this guy a broken ability. It's got nothing else going for it, really. I mean, look at its moves. They're all physical. Oh, sorry, Dragon Breath. My bad. Gonna win the championships with Dragon Breath. Mega Scovillain is another Gen 9 Pokemon slipped in here. I didn't expect it to even make it into the game, but heck, I was pleased as punch to see it pop up. Its designers turned it into a sort of businessman, which I initially didn't really understand at first, but upon remembering CEOs exist, Scovillain, as the name implies, is the perfect Pokemon for this theme. I think it looks neat. It didn't really change as much as I'd have liked it to, and honestly, I feel like there was room for a Scovillain evolution rather than Mega Evolution, but I really liked the seed hair, or the spikes, and the tie is funny, so I'm pretty happy. I think it was a nice subversion as opposed to what I would have thought the Mega would be, that being, you know, add more heads option. Mega Tatsugiri! Now the Gen 9 Pokemon. I didn't think there would be so many. It kind of falls into the same issue I have with Meowstic, although here I can let it slide a bit more, as Tatsugiri aren't like super different. They all have the same stats after all, and moveset. The only difference being what stat they increase for Dodonzo's Order Up move, and they do technically have different Mega forms, with who's in the middle changing based on your specific Tatsugiri. It's definitely an odd Pokemon to give a Mega to in the first place though, right? Like a support Pokemon based on leaving the field pretty much as soon as it's thrown out. I mean, it's neat. Something I wouldn't have expected makes the surprise all the better, although I do worry about competitive play. I mean, not only is the Donzo going to get beefed up by swallowing Tatsugiri, but now, when you finally knock out the Dondozo, the Mega Tatsugiri awaits immediately afterwards. Either way, the design, it's sushi. Yep. Honestly, I I mean, it's kind of neat, but kind of obvious too, and not something I'm particularly wowed by, and not something I was interested in using myself. I do like how the planter is the Mega Evolution symbol, though. That's a nice touch. Mega Baxcalibur. Another Pokemon I won't get the chance to use in ZA because this one was another ranked online reward, but gee, I mean, this design should have been the base one, right? Like, it's really good. It's not super different from the regular form, but the Mega Energy seemingly going straight to the sword on its back spine is a neat idea, with the ice seemingly seeping out around Baxcalibur in the process, creating some sort of armor on his chest and back. It just sucks that this one was another online play reward because it was one of the two shown off in the DLC trailers, the other one being Mega Chimecho. And Chimecho's not a ranked online play reward. Either way, I love Chimecho. I think it's needed some love for the longest time, although with its Mega form here, an actual evolution is now off the cards, so that's really unfortunate because Chimecho's stats were never really all that good, so Mega doesn't exactly put it on the playing field even now. It has a total of 555, which is still 45 points off Baxcalibur's original stat total. Maybe they'll give it a good ability, which is about all we can hope for. Design-wise, it unfortunately falls into a bit of a disliked spot for me, where they just slap some accessories onto the Pokemon and call it a day. I get that its frame is shaped like Chingling, yeah, that's cool, but I don't like Chingling. Well, I do, but I'm here for Chimecho, and he looks pretty much the same, now just with a giant metal frame around his head. Crabominable is not exactly a popular Pokemon, so I was surprised to see it here, but I'm glad it is here because its Mega is pretty interesting. Honestly, it gets kind of scary. This thing is very aggressive looking with its spiky fists and daggers for legs, and it's got a cape thing going on too. I'm not crazy. It's a thing. It's real. Mega Golisopod, I honestly didn't even realize was a Mega for a little bit. I knew its beard looked weird and there was something off, but I wasn't sure if that was like my memory playing tricks on me or not. And, you know, judging just from that statement, you can probably guess where my feelings lie for this big bug man, and that's straight smack bang in the middle of I don't really caresville. I think Golisopod is cool, but I think its Mega suffers from a similar problem as Skarmory's. It just doesn't do enough to differentiate itself, even with the machine-like proportions it now has with the extra legs and arms. It's sort of forgettable, really. Same kind of goes for Mega Golurk. I understand what they were doing here with its inner energy exploding out and enveloping it in a sort of cloud, but it's fine. It's just not really all that interesting for a Mega, I think. As an alternate regular form, this would be a neat idea, like for weak armor Golurk or something, but as the Mega, I mean, why would I put this on my team instead of something else? I don't know. There's probably someone in the comment, I love Golurk, how could you do this? Mega Zeraora was another Mega shown off in the trailers, and it finally gives the cat something to do after its nothing reveal in Generation 7. However, I think despite this being a perfect example of what a Mega Evolution is, it's extremely boring. Change the colors, give it more spikes, Bob's your uncle. It just doesn't do anything interesting with the idea of Zeraora, not that it had a particularly interesting idea to start off with. It's the Mega Meganium of mythical Megas. It's Mega Lucario 2. It's been done before, and I would have preferred something more dynamic. Another mythical Mega is Magearna, which turns the cute maid robot into a killing machine bent on felling foe after foe. And just like that, they gave Magearna something interesting. See, Zeraora, that's how you do it! Not that I think the design's perfect, there's a few odd bits and bobs. I don't know why it has 3 spikes on the top of its head, or why it has a giant split gear floating around it, but that's just kind of nitpicking. I like it overall. And lastly, we have the final Mega Evolution, which also happens to be the final boss, if you don't count the other bit of the DLC after the credits. So, throughout your point-grinding escapades, you'll occasionally be pulled into a dream. Well, you're not really pulled into a dream, you're sleeping at the time, but it's a dream of nothing, of darkness. A dream which immediately reminded me of Mystery Dungeon in the post-game story about Darkrai, so I put 2 and 2 together and spoiled myself on the ending. I feel like they could have maybe made a new Pokemon for this, though, giving Darkrai a Mega Evolution is a cool idea to give him new powers, but, I feel like the twist here was just too obvious. And yet, after several loops of the old point grind boss butter combo, Corbeau has finally managed to get us access to the big splat above Lumio's tower, which is where all this funny business seems to have been coming from. Did they mean for the graphic to cut right through the fog? Or... Okay, if you didn't think the tower was too small before, you gotta agree now, right? How the hell How did they fit a gym battle in this thing? Shit's rivaling a Tokyo apartment. This super splat takes us to the final boss area, which takes place in a new area? A place that isn't Lumio City? How could this be? This was a mere fantasy, a wish, a dream, literally. The splooges of hyperspace, as they're called, are actually the rectified dreams of Lumio citizens, brought into reality by Mega Darkrai's power. At least I think that's the explanation. It's been a few months. It's so depressing that I was so excited to see an outdoor area like this in ZA. An area that probably wouldn't look out of place in a PS2 game, and I'm out here clapping like a seal for a game doing the bare minimum. Well, you see, the processing power had to go to the landscape, so there's no way that. As for Mega Darkrai and its design, it certainly does fit the criteria I like of, changing body shape, I'll give it that. It feels to me like it was definitely designed as a boss first, and then a Pokemon that you can catch and use later. It has two kind of forms, head in and head out, with the first looking like a big floating eyeball and the latter looking kind of goofy, to be honest. I get what they were going for with it. It's like floating horizontally instead of vertically. You can see this looking at it sideways, but I don't know, man. I can't help but look at this and just think of Ace Ventura squeezing his way out the rhino anus. I'm not really a fan, but I think it's neat that they tried something really different with this one, and for that I'll give them some credit. Now, I realize I didn't really mention or explain any of the boss fights mechanics in particular, other than Meowstic's wall of bullshit, and that's because none of them really do anything particularly challenging or different of note. I did lose a few times, but that was mainly due to me skimping on the berries and not knowing what Pokemon I was going to be fighting ahead of time. Like with Heatran, I went in with a donut that only gave me a boost to level 137 for a 180 battle, alongside having mostly Pokemon that were pretty ineffective on top of that. But one trip back with the Garchomp and I was flying higher than Urbane. Darkrai's fight was fine, what I expected really, but it did prove to me that Game Freak still hasn't learned how to optimize other than removing any and all polygons they can get their hands on. I had slowdown in this fight. Real, actual slowdown. I don't even have slowdown on Scarlet and Violet on the Switch 2. How bad did they fuck up here? I can't even imagine what the fight's like on the Switch 1. Holy moly! After the credits roll, the game does give you a couple more battles to do if you're interested in actually completing the story with the Weather Trio, Groudon, Kyogre, and of course, the Rayquaza that Archer was so interested in. Unfortunately, like with the rest of the Pokemon in the game, they didn't update any of the models, so they all look really goofy in their 3DS glory, but I mean, what did I expect, right? I don't know. Because of the lack of abilities, I figured I could just bring in a water type to Groudon and beat the crap out of him, but apparently, they thought that he deserved not to be pulpified in half a minute, so the Greninja I EV trained went unfortunately unused here, but well, it's nice that they programmed it in specifically for Groudon, at least. I just can't win. These two battles are nothing stupendous, kind of more of the same, to be honest. Groudon has a giant, stupid hitbox that stops you from grabbing the Mega Energy, so great job there, Game Freak. But the Rayquaza battle, once you get the 100,000 points, Jesus Christ! Is also more of the same, but it's hard. One thing that I realized was happening more and more often as the game progressed was rogue Mega Pokemon kind of ignoring, the Pokemon I was battling with and instead focusing just on me, and there's no better example of this than Rayquaza. The battle is pretty long already, even if you have super effective moves, and that's fine, that's all good, I enjoy a challenge, but man, I think a lot of people probably struggled here. There's a lot of shit all trying to kill you on the screen at once, and Rayquaza does not let up. It's not a Pokemon battle, really. It's a Pokemon versus person battle. It doesn't matter how beefy or how well trained your Pokemon is. If you go down, that's it. Restart, asshole. This would be fine. A little frustrating for people who have already been struggling at this point. It's why I think specifically for Pokemon they need a difficulty selection, because they've got a very broad spectrum of players, extremely casual all the way to hardcore masochistic. But even without that, it would be fine if the game functioned correctly. I beat the fight on my third attempt, and say what you will about my skill, but there's a specific move that Rayquaza does, in which he creates a tornado at the center of the arena to draw you in and starts charging up a blast from the side. What you're supposed to do is attack the tornado, yeah, that makes sense, but you attack the tornado, and it'll subside enough, well, it'll remove the invisible wall anyway, and you can run away to the side of the arena to dodge Rayquaza's blast. Or, alternatively, what Gamebree thought would be fun is that you could attack the tornado and then it doesn't remove the invisible wall, meaning you still get hit by the blast, leaving you on 1 HP, only to get hit by a move immediately afterwards and forced to restart, which you've already spent 10 minutes on beating already. 10 minutes might not seem like a lot of time to be stuck on one boss, but when all you're doing is dodge rolling over and over again in between telling your Pokemon to use the same moves non-stop, it just gets boring. It's like they wanted to be a Souls-like without understanding it's the complexity of the fights in those games that makes them satisfying to beat. Also, they don't tend to bug out so much, funnily enough. I think it was here where I was really feeling the limitations of this battle system. Honestly, I was surprised I got this far without getting bored, but I can understand why people don't gel with it all too much, even from the get-go. For me, I like Pokemon a lot, so seeing the designs I've come to love running around in real time scratched an itch I've been waiting to get my hands on for a long time, but if you compare ZA to any other real-time battle system out there, it's incredibly bland. I get it. As I said like over an hour ago, it needs more depth. Anyway, there's a few more things to talk about. There's a few new battle themes, like music, but nothing that really stood out to me, mainly because they were only boss themes, so I was more focused on the battles than the music. And seeing as Karina's the only new major trainer and she was just using a cleaner version of her successor theme from X and Y, there's not even really any trainer themes to go over, which is a real disappointment. A lot of Pokemon just have cleaner versions of their normal battle theme too. Kyogre and Groudon, Rayquaza, Swords of Justice, Latios and Latias. It's the two main Megas that get the new tracks. Darkrai gets 2, 1 for each form, and of course Mega Rayquaza gets 1 for its Mega form. And they're all really good. You know, Darkrai starts off as a remix of the Sinnoh Legendary theme, and when it Megas, it completely changes. It's very high energy and kind of spooky themed, which fits well. It's good. It's good. I like it. Mega Rayquaza's theme, you know, after you remove the hatred I feel from the Pavlovian conditioning from association to the battle itself, is also good. Not as good to me as the Mega Darkrai one, but it has its moments. It sneaks the Team MZ theme in there too, which... shit, man, could they not have had Naveen and Dancing Queen in the fight too for this? I mean, we're missing half of Team MZ here, and the game's just like, Karina's the only part of Team MZ you need, pal. Just forget about those other guys. Not that that's a difficult thing to do, of course. As I said here, they might as well have been deleted from the game files 4 minutes into the DLC. I forgot to talk about Archer's Donut making menu music. Best track in the DLC. No holds barred. Just telling you how it is. It's funky. It's fun. This whole menu, this whole setup is... It's the one thing in the game, again, that, like, feels AAA. Like, it's so weird. I mentioned that there were more side quests before for the DLC, and they really did add a bunch. I mean, most of them are more of the usual simple little stories, which are sort of charming for the most part. Like, it's via side quests we learn a little bit more about Naveen and Dancing Queen, like she mentions Tierno and how he's actually her half-brother, which I didn't expect. I thought they'd met already, but no. Don't even suggest the meeting here, though. Oh, they'll talk about him, but they won't put him in the game. Cowards. Although with all these side quests, at this point I was finding it kinda hard to care about them, especially now this far in. A lot of them feel like they're just trying to waste your time, you know, rack up that save file timer. A lot of them really do like to linger on shots, whether that be a camera pan or just on a person's face. I appreciate the effort that goes into them. They do try to do some new stuff, like with the story guy, which was an interesting idea the first time, not so much the other times. But man, some of these just feels like they're taking the piss. The Rotom quest, oh my god, the Rotom quest. Just give this guy 6 Rotoms with in-battle dialogue like you've done before, instead of making me go in and out of these long-ass transition screens and in and out of every goddamn battle. That reminds me, speaking about wasting your time, you might go through hundreds of hyperspace portals in your time with the DLC, and there's a small cutscene before you enter every time, and oh my god, they make you hold the start button to skip it each and every time. It would be bad enough if you still had to skip it every time. Like, honestly, had a menu option to auto skip, come on, but holding it? What are you, savages? Surely somebody in the team thought this was a bad idea. Was the cutscene so expensive to make you just had to force us to watch at least a little bit of it each time? Anyway, the side quests, they give you more of the same old rewards that you know and feel probably neutral about. The only ones of any interest really are the new TMs for the moves they brought back, which, by the way, most of the new TMs are sold by a random NPC next to the Pyro Zone. Not that they tell you this, I ran into him really early on, but I bet there's a bunch of people out there who just missed the guy. There's no map icon, just like that sad excuse for a Furfro salon, and there's also the possibility that you might get a new, old Pokemon like Gimmighoul, which you can find the 1,000 coins needed for its evolution in hyperspace, which gets annoying after you've already gotten your Golden Go, because I'd rather, be getting other items, something else at that point. I thought a new reward would be seeing hyperspace Pokemon actually migrate into Lumiose, like every person in the game is complaining about, but aside from battling a few Pokemon in areas they usually aren't, nothing really changes in Lumiose. I thought that after the Koffagrigus mission in the sewers they'd stick around, but I don't think they do. The only time any Pokemon do stick around is after you give a Phoebus to this girl here, and she lets it go into the water nearby, and after a few in-game days, hey, now you can catch Phoebus here. That's cool. I wanted to see more of that. They did do something cool with one mission where you actually get to name a spot of Lumiose, which is really cool. I love stuff like this. Imagine if we got to name like each of the new wild zones instead of having them all be numbered. That would have been so neat. Like, again, there are some cool little missions. They even faked me out in one of the other quests, the Frigibax quest. I really thought they were going to end it with its trainer refusing to let it have any friends, even going so far as to put the mission complete screen up, but then they interrupted, and it all turns out okay. It was really sweet, and I liked that. It just happens to be in a game where all the mechanics around the writing take too fucking long. Like the trainer tip guy, he's very charming, but oh my god, hurry the fuck up, I'm about to kill myself. Some side quests also give you access to special mythical Pokemon too, most of which here I've never had the opportunity to own, so that was neat. Magearna, Melton and Melmetal, Volcanion, oh my god. You want to see something insane? I couldn't believe my eyes. So the side quest for Volcanion has you and Mabel opening up an old Pokeball containing Volcanion, right? But you need to battle it to calm it down. It's been in there for a while. Where can you do this? Well, you're in Lumiose. It's a bit hard to, find a safe spot. So, let's use the lab's basement. Nobody's down there. Okay, sure, let's do it. Guys, when I said Game Freak is lazy because they don't bother making interiors, I didn't mean this. I was at a loss for words, man. Like, I thought my game had bugged. Surely this was not intentional. But it is. Could you imagine any other video game company doing this? Like, aside from a joke? Just not bothering to make a single fucking room? I wouldn't be surprised if in Gen 10 they just do away with the fucking overworld too. Who needs it? Our gameplay's still there, right? If this doesn't scream the state of the quality of the games this company is squeezing out the door, I don't see what does. This is unfathomably lazy? Lazy isn't the word for it. It's unabashedly stupid. I paid $50 for this? I want my money back. Moving on, because if I don't, I'll explode! There are two more types of side missions, both taking place in hyperspace. Battle a Mega Pokemon for its stone, or battle a duo of trainers alongside another trainer. These people are dreamed up much like the Pokemon, so I wonder if they left the hyperspace, there'd be two of them in the real Lumiose. Okay, so what have we covered? New story, new Pokemon, new bosses, new side quests, new music. What's left? Oh right, a huge part of this game's identity, customization. If you're anything like me, you were waiting for the side quest that opened up a whole new realm of clothes and hairstyles and contacts and so on and so forth. And because they're adding more of everything else in the game, what do we have on that front? Well, am I about to tell you that the DLC included a ton of new customization options to style your character with, or have you played the game and know that's a load of horseshit? No, they didn't really think about the customization, to be honest here, which was a massive letdown. Not an unsurprising one, let's be real. Now, that doesn't mean there wasn't anything new to customize with, because with those aforementioned double battle side quests, you see, I mentioned it before because it's a callback, each time you complete one, you get one of those trainers' clothes and hairstyle as well. You can get Corbeau's outfit, Canari's outfit, Jassant's outfit. I've only just learned that's apparently how you say the name. I mean, no voice acting. How am I meant to know, right? There's probably people already in the comments who said that, and now they're looking at the comment like, oh, I should have waited. You can also get Muscle Man's outfit and the Team Flare Dude's coffee outfit as well, which is ever so slightly different to the girls' one. Did they really just slide onto Emma's ass? These outfits, they're okay. Canari's outfit in here looks good. Muscle Man's outfit is pretty funny, and I finally have a straight style long hair option, even if I do look like a Yu-Gi-Oh character. And Corbeau's and Team Flare's outfits look fine, but Jassant's outfit and hair got fucking mutilated. They took out all the puff to make it work properly with our character's animations, and the hair was shrunk so far down it doesn't even look like Jassant's hairstyle anymore. And oh, hang on a minute. Look at that, a black void. Almost like they could have done that for any other skirt in the game. How interesting. After unlocking all these outfits, you can find extra side missions to rematch these characters, and I thought surely this was for their team members' outfit, like construction guys or ghost girls or LeBons, but no, you never get those. The rematches give you extra unlockable color options, which, well, the game says color options, but they really mean color option. You get one. And the messed up thing is that you can't even mix and match like with regular clothes. Even if it seems like there should be the option to, it looks like you can, but the game just doesn't let you. It's such a fucking half-assed way to add this shit, man. I think I would have been less disappointed if they just added no new clothes. More angry, sure, but that's a fun emotion. I like getting angry. Disappointed is sad, though. That's no good. Hi, everybody. Rad here for another funny Legend ZA update from the future. It turns out in an update, they added the inclusion to mix and match your unlocked color for each outfit. Either that or I ran into a bug when I first unlocked them. Just thought I'd let you know that that is there now. You can put the yellow with the blue on canary. Yippee! But it's like one unlockable color for a specific small set of costumes. So it's still pretty disappointing either way. Just thought I'd say that to stop people from rip-roaring into me in the comments section. You can see in the video, I clearly did not have the option to mix and match. So I don't know what happened there. Oh well, back to the video. So, what can you do after all that? What happens after you beat Rayquaza, you've helped out everybody, you've got all the whatevers? Well, you unlock special scans, which require a lot of hyperspace points to activate, and also you have to go back to the Rust Syndicate every time you want to do that. It gets annoying pretty quick. Menu option, please. I have a phone. It's a big part of the game. They're essentially randomly picked hyperspace portals with the chance of finding something rare, like in my time that I played, I managed to find a single Latios, which I failed at catching due to the way the buildings were set up being so fucking asininely out of the way to get to the top, so I just Alt F4'd that bitch to retry, but I gave up after a few more runs, not getting Latios. I got Latios, but like trying to find more legendary Pokemon. It's just too grindy, man. It's the same shit over and over again, just to have a chance at getting a Pokemon you don't already have. It's the Infinite Royale all over again. It's just not fun, eh? And I didn't bother completing the decks this time. Hell no, not that I think I could anyway. Apparently there are some Pokemon that you gotta trade for in order to evolve, like Phoebus, which is so stupid, man. Give me back my Pokeblocks, you son of a bitch. Overall, I kind of view the Mega Dimension DLC as a way to see the new Mega Pokemon for a pretty big cash deposit. The story isn't really anything all that interesting. The twist was obvious. They only added one new trainer total while having you refight the same ones over and over again from before. I think Canari's battle total is up to 7 now, maybe 8. And the only thing I can think of that even feels somewhat premium about the experience is a donut crafting menu. It's just overall kind of bland. It's like 5 hours of content spread out over 30. You can get much better DLC packs that offer a lot more in other games. Heck, you can get games that offer a lot more than ZA as a whole for less than the DLC's price. But when we start talking about that, that's like a different video on a different topic. I'm talking about ZA, and ZA is fine. It's still fine. It's not great. It's not terrible, aside from the parting. It's just fine. And that's boring. Say what you will about Scarlet and Violet, and I did say what I would about Scarlet and Violet, but at least there it made for an interesting video, you know? This is just, I don't know, it needs work, it needs passion, it needs a time frame and budget that respects the size of the brand it represents, and with so much money in their pocket, at this point it's just a question of whether or not the company cares enough to improve upon itself for future titles. Gay card! Well, I'll be here, guys, just waiting for Gen 10, I suppose, and I'll tell you, this structure of review, let's do story, and then music, and then gameplay, etc., is hell to edit, man. I'm sticking with the play-by-play structure for Gen 10, I think. That's much more my style. I'm glad I tested it out, but oh boy, that's not for me. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you want to see more big videos like this, please support me on Patreon. Always a huge help. I literally don't get paid much by YouTube. This is how I make my money. Or you could use my code RADICAL for 10% off both Gamer Subs and Cheeky Soap, which both products I think are great. I don't take sponsors from companies that I think their product is not worth promoting. All right, bye-bye.